Welcome back and welcome into another great show of Geek Entertainment. We got Jack Walker Pearson. We got Lawrence St. Oh, I'm sorry, take that back. Lawrence St. Victor's not here. We got
Yeah.
Chris St. Victor, though, his cousin, who's, he's funny, right? He's funny. And then
That
you
was a
got
good
me,
time.
Rich. And with our powers combined, we are three brothers in a shot of milk, even though we're missing a brother. It's okay. He'll be back, I think, maybe. We'll see. Um, but we're here for your geek news, entertainment, comic book, TV, movies, maybe some anime, and more. And gentlemen, how's your week? Start with we started with Jack last time. We go with Chris.
What up? My week was good. I was in Indianapolis for the first half of the week, and then
Okay.
and then the next half of the week I just had to do catch up at work and stuff like that.
Mm.
I'll show you. So remember we talked about the Mumra? I finished painting the Mumra from
Yeah,
last
yeah.
week.
Okay.
Man, it's actually
So
pretty sick.
thank you, Jack.
That's pretty dope right there.
Praise from Caesar. So it came out good. And then I also squeezed in a Deadpool there. So
Sick.
Nice.
and then
Chris, I got to tell you, I'm inspired and impressed by just how much you've upped your painting skills.
well, thank you. Thank you. You know what? The key is my magnifying light.
Ah,
That's the
all right.
key. But thank you, Jack.
Get the fine details. Very
I'm
nice. Very
trying
nice.
my best.
All right. What's going on with you, Jack? How was your week? What are you watching? What are you
All
reading?
right.
What are you playing?
Well, I watched a few things. I watched Grand Tour, the latest episode. It's
Yes,
called Fan Job.
it was great.
Did you watch that? Yeah,
I loved it.
It's great. So that's the Top Gear guys are after I think it was Jeremy Punch, the producer, they canceled Top Gear and then Amazon picked them up with the show. It's basically the same show but totally different. Same cast,
Okay.
Grand Tour. So that was fun. Except for WTF, Amazon with the commercials. Really?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
obnoxious.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you this.
It's not like it's just one commercial at the top of the thing. It's like there's commercials throughout the content now.
I downloaded it and I watched it downloaded, and I didn't have any commercials when I downloaded it.
No, I'm sure it just it throws in commercial prompts throughout the content now.
Rich
Yeah.
brought that up. Rich brought that up like 2 weeks ago. I have a real big problem with that, man.
He
Yeah.
brought it up, but I didn't. I guess I haven't been on Amazon recently. I was on it for this, and it's obnoxious. It's so obnoxious, in fact, that I might spend the extra $3 just to avoid the commercials. Or just
That's how they win, Jack. That's why.
That's how
But when
they
you're
win.
streaming, and you're pseudo binge streaming, like imagine watching any content where you're going to watch a few of the episodes and you just get bombarded. Like, what are we back in the 90s? Come on.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you 100%.
So I watched that. It was good. I enjoyed that. I watched Twins.
Okay.
With
Come
Danny
on,
DeVito
man.
and
How we
Arnold
never
Schwarzenegger?
get Triplets, the sequel with the daughter.
Yeah.
I went back and I watched some of the Avatar cartoon just to kind of
Okay.
refresh the palette, since we're talking about the Netflix, the series that just dropped later in the show. I rewatched the Gantz animated
Oh,
movie.
yeah. Okay.
It's like CGI animated film.
All right.
And that thing hits, and the graphics are sick.
Yeah.
And I was telling someone about our podcast, and he asked me if I was adopted.
By
And
the brother?
I said, adopted? No. He goes, oh, I just thought they were your brothers. I go, not brothers, but brothers with an A. He goes, oh, I got you. I got you.
All right.
That was a pretty entertaining conversation I had this week.
All right. Pretty solid week. Oh, me? Yeah. Thanks for checking in.
What'd you do, Rich? How was your week?
My week was all right. Besides the stresses of work, what did we watch? I just finished watching Escape from L.A.
It's a retro.
The old Kurt
Yeah.
Russell movie?
Old Kurt Russell. Things were different back in the day, man. You didn't have to be really too jacked up back then. You could just be somewhat toned, and you was looking like a good dude out there. But yeah, a lot of stuff wouldn't be able to fly in that movie this day and age. What else? Dead Island. I got back into that. I found Game Pass, so a lot of people have downloaded it and they've been playing it, and that's really it. I should have been on a plantation. I mean, on my ranch with my in Power World and making sure that they're working because they're a bunch of lazy ingrates. That's it. That's all my week's been. Just work and looking for a new job. Life.
Really?
That I don't even want to talk about it right now. But it's not. It's looking bleak, bro.
Let's
Anyway,
talk. Let's have a conversation after this.
after
Are
this,
Seriously.
are we getting prompts on the feed? We got Connie Alaska's in the house again. What's up, Connie
Yeah.
Alaska?
Hold on.
Oh,
it's
we're
not-
back to that. I think we got the wrong settings again. There
There
they
we go.
are.
There you go.
Found family. I assume she's talking about us.
Without a
Yeah.
doubt. Without a
And
doubt.
and are we commenting on our own
we
feed?
commented-
I love it.
Who's this?
100% agree.
Well, it was mad. I was mad heartwarming, so I couldn't just let that comment go unacknowledged.
Nice.
All right. Well, with that being said, let's go ahead and cut down the street, run all the stop signs, get over by Guzzles and make a left. You know what? We just going to the collector's corner.
It's show and tell time. We're skipping the joke.
Do the joke later. Joke's not important right now.
All
Doing
right.
the
It
joke
wasn't
later.
right into the collections. I'm down.
With that being said, I don't have anything collection because I already told you I'm not buying nothing until things look up over here. I can pull something off the shelf though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you pull something. I can show what I got.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah. That'll make me big. So remember how McFarlane stopped? Oh, I'm still. It's
Uh-huh.
me.
Yeah.
This is good. We'll be big on some. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Remember how McFarlane stopped giving guns?
Yes.
Did you buy that?
What? Yeah, I bought the accessories pack.
The
Okay.
15 pack. No,
Yeah, so I actually got this for Secret Santa for Christmas. I've been meaning to show it, but I've had a bunch of stuff I showed. But it's all a bunch of guns and all sorts of cool stuff that you can put into your figures.
Yeah, you'll put them in your figures, all right.
So the problem is that you get guys like Red Hood who has guns, and then all they come with is crowbars.
Right.
crowbars. Everyone gets a crowbar now.
Yeah, sometimes you want to put guns back in the hands of guys who have guns. So they're actually pretty detailed. So it's pretty cool.
All right.
Yeah. So
How much was that?
I have no idea. I think like $25 or $20.
20. Imagine you could just spend money. You don't even know how much it costs. Look at you, big balling.
Nah. To be fair, this was a gift. But you see what I talked about last week? How those microtransactions? That shit.
Yeah,
No more,
yeah,
man. No
yeah,
more.
yeah. The next thing you know, they're gonna be buying like alternate skins and costumes and whatnot.
You know what? I did. You know what's funny? I did email this guy I know who was a buyer. He used to be a buyer for KB, and he worked for Kenner back in the day. And I pitched him my idea and see what he thought, and he never got back to me. So screw you, jerk.
His loss. His loss.
His loss.
All
Who's
right,
up next? I'm good.
Jack, what do you got?
All right. Well, we got JWP in the house. He says, laugh out loud. And Connie Alaska is gasping over the fact that we've skipped the joke at this moment.
Oh, don't worry, Connie. It's coming.
You'll get the joke, and it'll be just as horrible as it usually is. All right.
Wonderful. So I'm showing off some cards, some comic book cards from my collection. So what I'm trying to do now is, in little pockets of spare time, I've been making cases and boxes for some of my cards. So this is a Superman holding
You guys
case.
might forget
Nice.
Jack is a master carpenter. Jack can build
Well,
anything. So
Anything.
Yeah, I don't know about anything. But anyway, so I'm still decorating it. But I finally built a little box for my tall cards. These are my Skybox 1994 Superman. Here, I'll pull out a couple. They look good. Like you can tell, they got that chrome.
look at the long
corners.
hair and the curl.
Nice.
That's the most 90s card I've seen in a long time.
It's the most 90s cards. You got the whole Doomsday line. So this is a couple years after the battle. So it's well documented at this point.
Glossy foil cards were the jam back in the day, man. Steel.
So these are sick cards. What's interesting about what made it hard to put these anywhere is they're long.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Hey.
I'll put that one back. And then the other thing I wanted to show you guys was my 90. So that was 94 Skybox. And this is my 93 Skybox set, Superman Returns. So
Nice.
I got the set of that. I actually have two sets of that. And here's kind of what some of these guys look like. So they look good. These are all like the real classic
Hey,
images right out of
speaking
the
of
comic
Return of the
book.
Superman, did the McFarlane come out with the other figures yet, like Superboy, Eradicator, and those guys yet? Have they been announced yet, Jack?
You already have all of them.
Do they? You have all four?
Well, I had to make my own cyborg. So what I'm planning on doing, the reason I have these cards out this week is what I'm planning on doing is taking all the extra cards. So I want to maintain a set, but I'm going to take the extra cards, mount them on a plate, and then take the Death and Return line of the McFarlane figures that I've modified over the last couple years, and actually make a something mountable, like a little, not necessarily diorama, but a mountable figure set of these guys with the original art from the 90s as a backdrop.
That'd be cool.
Nice. Why don't you build a diorama? I feel like that's well within your wheelhouse.
It is, but it's it would cost me a lot of my greatest commodity.
Time. I hear that.
Yeah.
All right.
But I might. And did you find something off that shelf?
Oh yeah, I just reached over right here and got it. And yeah, I bought this. I don't think I showed this to you guys because it wasn't that important. But I enjoyed it because it was in Target and I saw it. And I'm like, yo, I don't have any Dragon Ball Z, and if I did show it, my bad. But either way, here it is again. Son Goku. This is
Nice.
this is a was that Bandai, and it comes with two additional face scopes. And does it come with a blaster? Or
So let me ask you a question. So I know when he goes Super Saiyan, his hair goes yellow, but then when he goes to another level Super Saiyan, his hair goes back to black, right?
Did it go white?
No, it's like a silver almost.
Oh, is
Right.
it?
He just keeps getting lighter and lighter the more powerful he gets.
He has a pink, he has a blue, and then he has silver, or like a silverish, because that's his Ultra Instinct. And then there's more. I think there's more after that, or at least it's going to be, because he just keeps ascending in power.
Keeps going, yeah.
Every time I see that figure, I think about I'm like one step away from getting him every time. I feel like he's an essential figure, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, actually, he has 3 faces in here. So he has his, I guess, little smirk face right there. Then he has like a more serious face, and then the yelling face, and then behind here, it's kind of like a surprise looking face. I'm about to pop them open.
Weird though. So just the faces snap off and not the heads?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look like this.
That's interesting.
I'll show you on this guy. The hairline tends to the way these faces look, the hairline pops apart.
Oh.
Yeah, I think one of my gargoyles has that.
That's pretty cool.
Actually, the one I haven't even opened yet. But yeah, that's it. That's what we got. Great picks, guys. Great money bangers.
Papa Goku.
Papa Goku. I got that out of Target.
Yeah, I see in the back that the collectors behind the albums and stuff, by the books.
Yeah,
I see it there sometimes. I think I'm gonna buy one.
Just go back there. Just go back there and get it, man. But listen, I'm gonna ask you a quick question.
What's that?
Boy.
Rich?
What do you call an injured Batman?
What do you call an injured Batman?
Bruised Wayne. Are you happy, Connie? With that being said, you better laugh. You better laugh. Anyway, with that being said, let's go on and make our way to the trailer park. We're going to the news, but we're going to hit some trailer parks real quick.
News.
Oh, hold on.
Breaking news.
Forgot I'm in control of that. All right. So we had a couple trailers. So Yeah, we had a couple trailers. I was going to say 3 trailers, but I didn't tell you to look at this one trailer. Asphalt City. That's the one I didn't tell you to look at.
Connie Alaska enjoyed the joke.
I
Cracked her up.
appreciate you, Connie. I appreciate you.
And he's a
Chris, if you
joke.
know how to prompt him on the screen, go
I
ahead
am
and keep him there.
trying right now.
All you
Jack.
do is highlight, just click over, and boom, show.
Cracks me up.
Yeah. And then a hot damn. I don't know what that was for, but hot damn indeed.
That must have been the show and tell somewhere along the way.
Yep.
Okay. So there was one I didn't tell you how to watch was Asphalt City, which looks really good, which is with Sean Penn and the dude from Ready Player One. And he's like
the kid, the guy who started it.
Yeah. He's like they're like EMTs, and I believe it's New York. I'm not 100% sure, but it looks really good. It looks like a nice little thriller. But what I did tell you to watch was Boy Kills World.
Yep.
And I feel like that'll be in our wheelhouse because Homeboy, the main character who is Bill Skarsgård, right?
Yep.
That's his name. That's them Skarsgårds are out there looking all fit and statuesque. His Mad Norwegian, exactly. But his parents are killed. He is mute, and yeah, he can't talk. So, with that being said, his inner voice is the voice actor of Archer. For those, who ever
John
watched it.
Heater, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's his inner voice. He can't talk though. He can't speak out loud. It's just his inner voice, and that's his inner voice, and that's what you hear throughout the whole movie. And it's kind of like I'd say like a Kill Bill type of vibe because he's going after this major corporation who they killed off his parents using cereal mascots. So it's very interesting, and I feel like this will be, whether we cover it or not, I'm definitely gonna watch it because it looks like my type of thing.
I'm down. Yeah, I'm down to see it. Look, anything that I love vengeance stories, so I'm about that life.
I mean, it looks great. It looks fun. It looks highly stylized, but I mean, it looks good. It looks fun.
It doesn't look boring, which is the key.
It doesn't
Right.
look boring. You would definitely be fully entertained no matter what. With that being said, moving on to the next one, Borderlands, the live action movie. This is a rough one. I know this has been in the works for like, I think they said, what, 2016, 17, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been in limbo for quite some time. They started messing with it, then they put it on the shelf, and then they having a problem with production and whatnot. But it came out. We finally got a trailer for it, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I am not impressed. I feel like they're about to abolish this thing or demolish it because
I mean, Borderlands is like I played Borderlands 3. It's not a Mario title. So
no, not a Mario title.
It's one of those things that we talk about where you don't have this title that's like like a pillar of video games where if they take liberties, I don't know how people will be pissed off that they took liberties with Borderlands.
Right.
It's not like Mario or Zelda or like
people. It does have a pretty big fan base. It's been going for like a good I want to say 20 years. From Borderland 1 to Borderland 3, and then even the prequels and everything like that. People are pretty upset with some of the choices they made with the cast. And the problem is it's a great game. All the characters are very they got their own what's the word, texture, and they're all entertaining in their own right. So it's like you put these characters who don't fit the mold, or they have very big shoes to fill. Like, for example, Tina. Tina is this young girl who was raised in the wastelands by herself because her parents were killed by psychos, and she pretty much learned to survive from explosives, like using explosives. She's a little bit crazy too. She's highly animated, so filling her shoes is going to be like a big thing because she's highly animated. Her facial expressions, the way she moves, how she talks. So to find someone that can actually bring that to life is going to be major. And if you don't do that, that might be an issue.
Did you guys watch that series with Daniel Radcliffe where it's kind of like a stylized version of the end of the world, and he's living in like this like barren wasteland?
Nah, what's that?
It's very much this esque, and I think it bombed. But I saw a couple of episodes. It was like it was the end of the world, but it was like people were just living. But it was very like. Do you remember the Rick and Morty episode where they were in that end of the world episode, and Rick stole the rock and then started living there for a while, and Summer married the dude.
Yeah,
You remember
yeah, yeah. I remember that one.
it's very much that series is very much like that, which makes me think that they're gonna take that same tone with like Borderlands. So I'm curious to see how that translates because it hasn't translated well when it translates to television shows.
Yeah,
So
I
yes,
remember that
that's
one.
it.
Yeah,
Exactly. So it's kind of in the same vein. So I'm wondering, how these Jack Black and these guys are gonna. I think it's gonna translate the same way, which is not that well.
yeah. Well, the fans are upset with it. They're upset. They're saying Jack Black. Because once again, this is a voice actor. Why can't you just get the voice actor for Claptrap? And according from what I read, according that they didn't feel like paying him from what they said. I don't know, but yeah, people are not they're not happy with the character choices, with the actor choices, and we'll see what they do. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Lilith is looking old. I'm going to say it. She's looking old.
Connie Alaska says, I know nothing about Borderlands, but I like the trailer. Honestly, hope it
Listen,
honors the essence of the show.
we'll see. I would say if you don't like it, well, not if you don't like it. If you don't know anything, it's probably gonna be one of those things. If you don't know anything, if as long as the actors deliver what they need to deliver, then it'll be all good. But for the fans that actually been following the content and playing it for, like I said, better part of 20 years, then yeah, it's gonna be an issue for some of them. And yeah, so that's that. So we're gonna leave the trailer park and get a little bit of news. And like I said, I can't add too much stuff to my thing, and my computer is frozen. Very fun, very fun. All right, let's move on to the phone. Hit some
ETC
music.
in the house. He says, "Oh, is that right? Dune Part 2 comes
Yeah.
out this Friday, which actually means Thursday.
Yeah.
It does look good." Yeah.
All I know is I need one of those Dune popcorn cups.
Dude, yo, did you see those? Oh my
SNL
god,
made fun of them too.
those things. That was a wild move. Sea of Thieves is for the video game heads out here. Sea of Thieves is coming to PlayStation 5 in April. It's been confirmed by 4 executive heads to other platforms. For those who haven't played Sea of Thieves, it's a pretty great open world pirate adventure, kind of stylized, cartoonish, almost like weird animation, but it's entertaining with your friends. And also they have private servers, so if you get tired of playing around with people who just taking your stuff, you get tired of playing a pirate and have to run away from other pirates, then you get your own little private server up to 4 friends, and then you can go from there.
ETC, Connie Alaska wants to know if it's closer to the book. I think it is, though, isn't it?
It might be because they expanded it longer than
Yeah, it's
the.
definitely
I
longer.
didn't read the book, kind of Alaska. I can barely read, so I don't know.
Hey, yo.
Barely read. You read comics. What are you talking about?
I do read comics. I don't read books though. I only read nonfiction books. I don't read fiction books. I'm like Cat Williams.
Wow.
Oh, speaking of video games, Jack, are you playing the demo for Final Fantasy Rebirth?
Yes, I did. Thank you for bringing
Nah.
that up. I did play the demo, and I actually got a prompt yesterday from Square Enix. ETC says it is much closer to the books, but not as close as the 2000s version, the series.
There was a series.
Apparently there was. I think I remember hearing. Yeah, I don't think I watched it though. 2000s was an interesting time for me, content wise. I didn't watch much things. Oh, but I got a prompt from Square Enix. My game has shipped.
Oh, all right.
So I should probably get it this week.
Nice. What is the release?
28th, 29th, something like that.
Now, will you be able to play it right away, or are they going to do one of those?
No, the second I got it, I got it.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Okay. Avengers: Kang the Destiny reportedly getting a new title.
Yep.
Marvel Studios changed the Avengers Kang of Destiny to remove character's name entirely from the fifth Avengers.
Formerly
Film,
known as King.
yeah, formerly known as Kang.
That guilty verdict was no joke. That was the nail in
Yeah.
this coffin, man. Marvel rocked with him and held on to him for a while till that verdict came in. Once that verdict came in, it was a wrap.
Well, they said that Marvel was trying to move away from Kang the Conqueror before the verdict, but the verdict kind of just was that nail in the coffin. Because Quantum Mania did not perform well, and yeah, they were just trying to move away from Kang.
You can't blame that on the villain.
Trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, we felt like he was acting in a completely different movie versus everyone else.
Yeah. And in other news,
And
Connie Alaska says, "Thanks, ETC."
Getting the information you need out here. ETC, he's a very informative person. I like you. Uncharted 2 gets what was that? Yes, Skull and Crossbones was a disappointment. It was. It was like a stripped down version of did he already say it? Yes, he did. Yes, it was a stripped down version of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Yeah. Like you really couldn't, like you just sailed around and then you didn't even really get out of the ship to do much except to like go to some ports. So it was very, very stripped down, very boring. Uncharted 2 gets an encouraging update from Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg shares exciting news updates on Sony sequel. Oh wow, they did have a Sony sequel to 2022 movie Uncharted, which is based on the best-selling game.
He's bringing the Funky Bunch, I heard.
Yeah, shit. Imagine, what are they doing? Are they?
I have no idea what the Funky Bunch
still
is
acting?
doing. No idea.
Tom Holland said, "Actually, I just got a call today that they got the script in, and I can't grow a real beard mustache, but they said start growing your mustache. It's going to take a while."
Yeah, I go through puberty. That's what happens.
They stunted his growth for Spider-Man.
Yeah, right.
Cast him because of his. Well, I'll leave that one alone. And in other news,
Sony is struggling to sell products that was once in high demand. Remember when it was hard to find a PS5?
Yes.
Now they can't get rid of them.
I'm gonna tell you what, everyone scaled up for the pandemic as if that was going to be the new normal for consumption and production, and then once everything goes back to normal, you have the glut, and then you're screwed.
I mean, I might need to start looking for these deals. Things are going to start going on sale, and yeah, if you look for a PS5 or any Sony product, start checking out those deals because they're trying to get rid of their stuff.
When that PS5 drops, I'll cop one just for Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, if I find one low enough, I'll definitely buy one. But also, with that being said, they said PS5 has reached its not shelf life, but has reached its, what was the word they used?
Life cycle, something like that.
Life cycle, something.
Yeah, I saw that.
So another PlayStation is more than likely coming out, and then
they always shrink first. They get more space and they get smaller.
Yeah,
and then you either get an add-on to it or you get the new console.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm feeling now, though? When I got my new Xbox, I felt like the jump from system to system was a lot less than it has been in the past. I remember when the new system would come out, like I'd be blown away, and then now all of a sudden it's like it doesn't feel that much different versus the previous generation.
That I'm not sure. I know they're usually pushing for like what, like 400 or 500 maybe.
I'll tell you right now, Connie. I'm gonna look at it.
I got mine for
so GameStop has them for $4.99.
That's
Sam's Club $4.49.
Now, is that the disc version or the digital version?
Disc edition, $4.99.
Okay,
you gotta get the disc edition.
I regret not doing that with my Xbox.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like
you can get on Amazon for $4.50. So it's gonna drop. So you think it's gonna drop for way less than that? We're talking like.
Well, you got people you got these stores trying to sell these things, and yeah, they're overstocked with them.
Stop
trying to get rid of them.
PS4.
Stop that PS. I mean, hey, listen. Sometimes you don't have time for games, and it doesn't make sense to buy another system.
I'm pretty sure JWP is probably rocking that old Genesis. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've
Shoot.
seen his collection. It's pretty
It's
impressive.
still trucking if it works.
Superman Legacy. Legacy. Superman Legacy's James Gunn shares BTC photo. Did we all see this photo?
Yep.
Oh, we all saw it.
I'll
I
Yeah.
didn't
share
see
it.
it.
Hold on a second. Let me see if I can share it with you guys real quick.
And for those who are wondering what BTC means,
I'm
it's
sorry,
behind the
BTS.
scenes.
BTS. Sorry, BTS. Yes, behind the scenes. You're right.
BTS.
You got it. Oh, you got it. There you go.
All right.
There it is.
Now I know
Good.
some of these people, but not everybody. Can we point them all out?
That's Guy Gardner. That's Nathan Fillion right there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know who this brother is back here.
I've
That's
seen
what's
him
his name
before.
from. That's what's his name from. He was in Mad Max Fury Road. And a couple other things. He's a really good actor. Is this Lex over here?
Yeah, well, look, you got the
we got-
guy from Barry in the corner, and you got Lex in the back, right?
This is Lex right here. Can you guys see my cursor? Oh no, you guys can't see my cursor.
So the stars are so far is David Corrin Sweet, who is playing Superman Clark Kent.
Which I assume is him.
Maybe. I mean, that he looks like he fits it. Yeah, that could be him.
Yeah.
You
There's
got
Nathan
Rachel
Fillion. He's Guy Gardner. I know that.
Brosnahan, probably butchered that, who's playing Lois Lane. Don't know who that one is.
Probably one
Not,
of these.
nah, it wouldn't be the one with that shaved head.
No, it's one of these.
Maybe you could probably put a wig on her. You got Isabella Mercedes as Hawk Girl.
Oh, it's probably her.
Nicholas Holt as Lex Luthor, who's probably homeboy in the back. Nah, I feel like it's the
No.
other one.
See,
Who, him?
guy in
I
the
feel like
middle.
it's the other bald guy.
Him?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is Nick Holt. He was in that Renfield movie too.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. The other bald guy is the hysterical guy from Barry, and next to him's the
Yes.
kid playing Jimmy
Oh.
Olsen.
Isn't he? He's playing Mr.
That's not Leonardo
Terrific, right?
DiCaprio, Jack.
Eddie
No.
Gathegi.
Yeah.
That's the other bald guy, right?
I'm not sure what his name is.
Oh, okay. All right. You got Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, who's the one bottom middle. You got Skylar Gisonado as Billy Olsen. I'm sorry, Jimmy Olsen.
That's
Right.
always him, right?
That guy, got to be that guy. Sarah Sampino, messed that one up as Eve. I'm not even going to bother touching that name. And then Anthony Carrigan as Metamorphoso. Excuse me.
I think that's him.
That's
I don't
him?
know. I don't know. I'm
He
just
looks
pointing at
familiar.
random people.
I've seen him somewhere.
His brother was in something. But
Yeah,
look,
definitely.
I'm hyped for it. I think it's gonna be dope. Well, how do you feel, Jack?
James Gunn does not make bad films.
That's true.
True. Yeah.
And Lawrence brought up a really good point with what the hell is the name of that movie? Burn, the horror film.
Brightburn.
Brightburn.
Mm.
Lawrence brought up a really good point with Brightburn, which was also produced by James Gunn. Clearly, he knows the content well enough to twist it, which means now you're just trying to do the wholesome version of it. Online.
This is from The Authority, which I personally don't care for. Yeah.
Huh.
Hey, etc. Do you guys remember that cartoon that they had where he faced the Authority? It was it Superman? I forgot what Superman cartoon it was. It was a couple years ago. But it could be all right. We'll see what happens.
That's interesting. Yeah.
All right, a little more news. Back into it. The Boys season 4 premiere date has been released. We are getting that in June 13th of this year. So you got a little bit of time. Maybe go back and watch some of the old stuff and refresh your memory on how everything was, and then it'll be here before you know it. Who's excited for the Boys? Everyone's excited for the Boys.
I'm excited for the Boys. I'm about that content. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
You got
I'm waiting for it to really start matter again. How many times are we going to see Homelander go nuts and it not count? Wait, Superman versus the Authorities. Really? That's the logo they're showing? I'm not super.
Lethal Weapon 5 is in production, and Mel Gibson and Danny Glover are returning?
Wait, what?
I believe that. I mean, look, you're getting a new Beverly Hills Cop right now.
Yeah, but
have you seen Danny Glover though? I don't know if he could be doing it anymore.
Jones, Harrison Ford is old.
That's true.
All right, wait. I have to comment on what ETC said. This is the logo they're showing.
Etc. Drop a link for the logo you're looking at so we can take a look.
Well, this is Superman and the Authorities. So if that's the logo they're showing, I've definitely got some concerns about it. Like, why? I would just say why, man. You're setting up the Superman of the DC universe moving forward cinematically, and you're already choosing like off-brand ways to represent them. Now, I haven't seen the logo being dropped personally, but word on the street is that's what we're looking at, which is far closer to like the the
Kingdom Come.
the Kingdom Come.
No, a Red Sun too, right? It was like that.
No, Red Sun was a little yeah, but I mean a departure for sure, but a little different. Yeah. All right. And in other news,
the Crow reboot lands mid 2024, release date of June 7th, which pushes Ballerina, the John Wick spinoff, to June 6th, 2025. And then also the Guy Ritchie movie that doesn't have a title, January 17th, 2025. But are we excited for the Crow, that which also features Bill Skarsgård?
Nah, I mean I could take it or leave it. The Ballerina I'm hyped for though.
I mean, yeah, I would like to see a little bit more of that.
I like the John Wick universe.
I mean, why are you watching the Continental? What's that?
No, I watched the first episode and I haven't watched it since. I watched it when we talked about it, and I haven't watched it since.
I haven't either.
I haven't either. I'm back to this, and then I'll let it go. I really hope this is not a version of a suit we're gonna get. I mean, Superman's literally wearing gloves in this outfit.
James Gunn, I'm warning you now, James Gunn, because I know you do listen. If you give that, Jack will never ever let it go. Just ask what's his name. Who's Jack's favorite director? Zack Snyder.
Zack Snyder.
I don't get a problem with Zack Snyder. He's a visionary, but man, I would like to get a really good looking traditional Superman costume. I mean, upgraded, but
yeah, Connie, those costumes are okay in like alternate universe in the conversations, but not in
exactly
continuity.
Yeah.
We're okay. It's okay to accept a weird and oddball suit for an Elseworld story.
Right. And in fact, it's fun and cool to see it.
Right.
I love that content. It's always fun to see crossovers or mixed up or like, wow, why does it look like this? But what they're doing is establishing, like they're reestablishing.
Right.
So,
I mean, maybe some people want to see that Elseworld, or wow, I'm looking at the other.
I want to see that. I want to see that big ass.
Yeah, exactly.
That big, yeah.
If you're gonna give us, unless you.
You want to see that what now? Say that again.
I want to see that big ass. That big ass.
It's so big. Oh, what are you saying, Chris? Go ahead.
Jacked Up at Superman movie has a major unreal. Yes, Connie, I've been hearing about this for. When the Superman movie come out? I saw the Superman movie with Jack, but when it came out back in New York City, and I've been hearing about it ever for the past 15 years. So
yeah, he was bummed.
All right. Last bit of news, and we're going to leave it off on some more DC. DC Comics has announced major new details about its big summer event, a new line of comic collections, and updates on its Elseworlds imprint on the Comics Pro Comic Industry Conference at the Comic Book Are y'all reading the Elseworld stuff or any of it?
I read some of it. It's cool. Some of it.
Yeah.
I wait for
Well,
it to come on trade, and I'll pick them up on trade. It's Elseworld is fun because it's good to see your characters in like a situation they've never been, or to have like huge events happen with no consequence of continuity. So it's
Mhm.
okay.
cool, but it's cool when it's in that context. It's an Elseworld story, so you can have Batman kill people. You can have Superman do these things. You can have Superman be a vampire, Batman be a vampire. You can have all this stuff happen, and it doesn't make a difference.
Mm. All right.
And then,
They also shared that. What's that?
Good example is Brandon Ralph's Superman symbol in Crisis. That's right, when he made the cameo. But we're also looking at a Superman who went through that arc. We're just picking him up later, right? So it made sense that his costume was different. Seeing the red yellow when he does fly over at the end. Exactly. Right, which just goes back to what we're talking about. The funny thing about Gunn in this example, and we'll let it go, is he's reestablishing the character. So why would it be anything other than
classic.
establishing? You
I
know,
agree. I agree.
Yeah. Also, they shared that uh, s- special Absolute Power comic will be free. Will be part of Free Comic Book Day. So get your issue when Free
I
Comic
love
Book
Free
Day
Comic
comes
Book Day.
out.
Free Comic Book Day is a good time, man.
And that is the news. Let's
and that was the news.
go ahead transition. I feel like we should have been doing that a little bit more. And yo, Chris, stop smiling.
Okay, fine.
Also, stop breathing so loud. Jack,
I'm congested, Rick. I'm sorry, I
stop,
have allergies.
stop laughing. Put them smiles away. Oh, I need to stop smiling too. And get ready for a debate.
Let's get ready to rumble!
All right. So I posed a question. With 2003 officially dubbed the year of the flops, and 2004 is not starting off very strong. So I posed a question, which I already said. Why does it seem like studios are making content that no one asked for or want to watch? Why are they taking IPs and characters, ignoring the source material, and trying to reinvent the wheel for the worse? For example, Halo, Madam Web, Kang, Gore, etc. Why are they purposely trying to destroy these properties? Another example, hiring underqualified personnel, telling writers, directors, and actors not to consume the content beforehand. Why? Why do they hate us so much?
I feel like that's a loaded question a little bit there, Rich.
Okay.
Because you can also look at examples where you could use it as an example of them kind of doing that, where it really kind of worked. You got some synergy going, like Guardians of the Galaxy is a good example where they picked up an IP that no one wanted to see. They deviated from the original source material, and they gave us this movie that turned into a really nice trilogy set. Um, so I don't know that the question works across the board. Although I do identify that there's certainly a lot of examples, and you don't have to just look at recent times. I did watch some Madam Web and may have low expectations, but I enjoyed it. Says Connie Alaska. It was way better than that Doctor Strange
I
movie.
agree, Connie. It was better than Doctor Strange.
Oof.
Doctor Strange was
That
terrible.
Doctor Strange movie really set the bar. Well, let's not get into Doctor Strange too much. Part of the problem with Doctor Strange was they sold us something and they gave us something else, and neither
Fact.
of which paid any homage to the thing that preceded it.
Well, Madam
Connie
Web kind of did
Alaska,
the same thing too.
which one?
They Madam Web kind of did the same thing too. They put up the superheroes in costumes, and that was in like what, a short glimpse of a flashback or
Yeah,
a
but to
vision.
be fair, I don't think they pitched us a Spider Woman movie
Right.
where Doctor Strange they built up, you know, uh WandaVision and all these shows as a multiverse, and Doctor Strange completely ignored everything that they've been building, and completely kind of threw a curveball into where we thought the Marvel universe was going in that phase. So, Madam Web is one thing, but Doctor Strange is that sin cannot be forgiven.
Connie Alaska brings up a good point. One's an original story and the other's continuing, and so usually when you got the original, you get a little more leeway with how you want to set up that thing. I think that in most cases, the best candidate is tried to put in the best position for them. So I think they usually get, often they'll get really good writers on board. The problem with scripts a lot of time is there's a lot of chefs involved, and sometimes that can really mess up a broth. You got too much input and too many people with too much say that can really kind of mess up a thing as it's going. There's an answer, but the true answer wouldn't be considered politically correct. Well, that might be for some of the content we're seeing, and
yeah.
no, but you know what? The funny thing about that is the pendulum has to swing to ratify itself a little bit, and we've seen our industry so lopsided for so long, where we've been getting very specific content that pretty much services one demographic. And so to see the pendulum swing, it's swinging hard to kind of balance that out, to give a little more love in a lot of in other corners, let some other people be serviced.
I get what you're saying with that, but when it's been servicing one demographic, and it's specifically that demographic that really goes out and supports the content, I understand that you're trying to include others, but if you swing it too far over, too much,
Yeah.
and you start isolating your main demographic who goes out there and buys the tickets, no matter what it is, like even if it's a chick flick, it's usually boyfriends going out buying these tickets to go watch it with their girlfriends.
Well, I think it's always got to go back to serving the material. And the second the material turns into an agenda to service something other than the material, then it starts feeling placed.
Yeah.
As opposed to, let's pick Wonder Woman for a reason and it can service that. Let's pick the content that services the thing you want to. So it's kind of a 2-for-1. You're killing two birds with one stone, as opposed to trying to force a thing into being a thing that it's maybe not best suited for. And I do feel like we are seeing that. We do see that more in casting now. Again, I say balance has to swing a little bit to find a better equilibrium. They're starting to hire on merit. They need to start hiring on merit and talent. Well, so ETC says they need to hire on merit and talent, and I don't feel like they're necessarily not. It is case by case. Although I will say that there have been some new mandates come down through SAG as far as what you're allowed to hire and not hire in a production. But I'll also say this: when you read the new mandates, they might sound and feel like, what the hell, man? Can't just the best people be hired? But I'll also say this: if you trace SAG back all the way to the concept, every film is still every film that's been nominated. Oh, that's what I meant. Things that are nominated for Oscars have to fit a certain criteria now. But if you go all the way back, every film that's ever been nominated still fits the new criteria. So it might sound lopsided and like they're overcompensating, but it's actually no different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. So here, if we're just talking about the politicizing stuff, I understand representation matters, because it does, and I don't dispute that. But sometimes they make certain choices where, as a black man, I'm like, who is this for? Is this representation for us, or is this just to make you guys feel better? To be like, look what I did. Because sometimes when it's disingenuous and it's soapboxy, I get that feeling like, who is this for? Because this is not for me. This doesn't help me. This doesn't help my son. This doesn't help anybody. This is just you guys patting yourselves on the back saying, hey, look how woke we are. Look how look how diverse we can be. But then when you do it in a genuine way, which we have seen in a lot of content, we saw it in Black Panther, we saw it in what was that? What was the recent female one we saw where we felt like the girl, the lead character was like legit and genuine. She wasn't pointing out every 5 minutes, look at me, I'm a woman, look at me, I'm a woman. But when it's done genuinely, then I feel like it does it.
Blue Eye Samurai?
It's worth it. What happened? Blue Eye Samurai, yeah. Blue Eye
Blue Eye
Samurai was
Samurai.
it.
Yeah.
But that's my point. Is like, but when we come back to the core of what the question is, like, we kind of got on a tangent about the representation of minority stuff. But I really just think
look at even, and we'll talk about it when we get into the content. The Avatar, Netflix Avatar, like the casting of this is so well done. And when I consider, M. Night's film, that's M. Night. He had every resource in the world. And I'm not saying the casting of that was bad, but it was kind of more how you'd expect Hollywood to cast a thing. Whereas now we're seeing this content where, man, they're just casting the content,
right.
And I applaud the Avatar series for phenomenal casting.
Oh no, yeah, this Avatar definitely did a great job, which we'll talk about later. But I don't even know I was gonna go with that. What are you gonna say, Chris?
What is the Blade trilogy? Let's see what Blade trilogy, Static Shock. Just name a couple where they're amazing because they were made for everyone. Yeah, I get that. I think Blade saved Marvel. I think Blade was definitely a pioneer. I think Static Shock was made from a genuine point of view, but because it was a genuine point of view, it was for everyone. It was a story told from an African American point of view, but because it was done in a genuine way, it was done in a way where everyone can identify it, and it was appealing to everyone.
But also look at that content. Blade was what it was and didn't need to service an agenda other than you got Wesley Snipes playing
ice skating uphill. That's it.
Exactly.
Getting uphill,
and
yeah.
Status Shock comes out of that time in the 90s where Milestone Comics branched off doing Icon and Rocket, Hardwire, Static Shock. And so the whole platform for that to even exist was trying to let there be another narrative being told,
It sounds corny, but you see, we're in the end of Black History Month, but a lot of these commercials for Black History Month when we watch a TV, they say Black history is our history, and there's as corny as it sounds when it's coming from those commercials, there's truth to that because when something is done genuine, it tells a legit story, it tells like a sincere story. I think it appeals to everyone. It can appeal to everyone, not just that demographic that it's molded after. So
you never want to feel like you're being fed a thing, right?
Right. That's my
It's
problem, Jack.
Which is what it feels like with a lot of this content that's coming out now. Like, feels like we're being fed a narrative.
Right.
Well, you also look at certain platforms. Like Disney is always going to try to, like, look at how they handled some of the Falcon Winter Soldier scenes, right? Some of the stuff was really nice.
Exactly.
Come on.
Exactly.
Get outta here.
Erroneous.
And then some of the scenes felt a little more placed, right?
Well, it's funny, Jack, you say that because when I reference this, that soapbox scene at the end of that series is exactly the scene I'm referencing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. What you're talking about is exactly my number one example of when something is disingenuous and asking who is this servicing? Because that speech at the end of Falcon Winter Soldier, it didn't help me. Did it help you, Rich? Did it feel like I was speaking to you?
But
Nah,
you could
not
go
really.
back to maybe it wasn't for you. Maybe it's trying to spread awareness to me, but it still feels placed, right? It's like Prototype 2, Mafia 3, GTA Vice City, not forced into the fans. We accept them and love them. Or we're still talking about the same thing. We're talking about
I guess. I mean, I'm not sure how this plays in.
Well, I guess some of what we're talking about, and I'm not sure this is the 100% the question you're posing, Rich, but it might be a two-part thing. We're in an interesting day of awareness where social media and the internet and the way we're able to reach a multitude of people just like that with whatever information we're trying to propagate. We've all become a little more aware, you know. And I've certainly seen some situations where it seems to me in some cases it's everyone being offended for everyone else, even though they're not necessarily a part of the conversation at all. I'm seeing the thing, and so I'm offended for you, and I'll be the
True.
loudest voice,
Exactly,
Right.
Jack.
But
which is
you have that. But what I'm talking about is when we're looking at the content. So I'm just going to go out there and say it. Halo. This is a 20-year prop. This is something that we've been playing since '99. I want to say, right, since it came out. This has a rich lore, like many books, many games, and it has like staples in it that you just don't really mess with. Like, for example, Master Chief. No one really knew what Master Chief looked like, except for the fact that I think you might have seen his skin color. He was white, but you never saw his face. He was described as, he wasn't the strongest Spartan. He wasn't the tallest Spartan. He wasn't necessarily the smartest Spartan, but he was one of the best leaders out there. Right? He cared about his team, he cared about his his whole squad, all the Spartans, and he made sure they all got back if they can off from their mission. He was the reason why they made him Master Chief. Reason why he was in charge of all the Spartans. And now we look at this Halo. I'm gonna say abomination on Paramount. And this dude is in his feelings. We see his face like 99% of the time, which I get. I kind of get why they do that because it's going to cost a lot of money to sit there and CGI this guy in his suit and everything like that. And then in order to show like the action scenes, they're not going to move like regular people, right? They're going to move faster. They're going to run faster, so on and so forth, right? My thing is, why did we just change this character to being this somewhat strong leader? Who, mind you, he did have his issues. He did have his, he doubted himself, but he kept it to himself and worked through that. He didn't sit there and display it for everyone, and therefore his whole team, this silver team, which bring back blue team, please, or bring blue team, period. The fact that he's spewing out that he has doubts and all this other thing, they're making him seem like he's crazy. Like he's literally the face of the Spartans. Like he's one of the strongest Spartans out there.
Yeah.
For the simple fact that he's a great leader, he's a great tactician, so on and so forth, and everyone looked up to him. They leaned on him for strength or for advice and everything like that. And they're making him look like he's crazy. I'm just like, this whole thing just blew my mind.
Are the creators and writers of the series or the showrunner connected to the original games?
That's a good point, Jack. That's a really good point because they might not.
They took the content and it's one of the things I was saying. They took the content and they were like, "Yo, don't even absorb any of what this content's about. This is here's your script, here's your character. This is what we're going to do with it."
Right.
And I'm just like, why would you do that? And a lot of fans are really upset with it. Me being one of them. Like, this is not Master Chief. This is some dude having existential crisis, and he's supposed to be saving the world. He's supposed to be saving the universe.
There's always something complicated about a protagonist character who's completely covered the whole time, and we see it we saw how Marvel kind of started dealing with it with their characters because so many of their characters are masked up. And we're constantly seeing Iron Man taking his helmet off. You really didn't see that too much in the comics. Certainly not the way it's depicted. Like it's constantly coming on and off, right? And some of that is because as a filmmaker, you want the audience to empathize with your characters. And the best way to do that is let them see them so they can make a connection to them on a human level. And Mandalorian is really interesting how you almost never see this character's face. I mean, really almost
we
never.
did once, and it created a whole story arc for him to redeem himself specifically for that.
Yes, right. Exactly. And so I thought that Halo was going to be like that. Like, wow, we got 2 series running where we're never going to really see the protagonist. Interesting. And that's not at all the case. Like, he spends most of his time with his mask off.
Look, and Jack, you're right. It worked for Mandalorian. It worked for Wilson from Home Improvement. I don't know why it can't work for Master Chief.
Wow, Wilson. Wow, the mystery
Wilson,
of that
exactly. You just saw this man's eyes. That's it. Like straight up. This is
years, for years, and it worked. So it could work.
ETC brings up another one. Suicide Squad. Will Smith definitely had his mask off 90% of the film. Sometimes they'll do that with a bigger actor because they want to see the actor in the thing. And sometimes it's even contractually. It's like you have to see my face X amount of time, X amount of screen time in the thing. So some of those are actually contracts. I
No
know
one wants to see this guy's face. They want Master Chief. They want
Well,
Master
keep in
Chief
mind what
saving
happened
the
to
world.
Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. because half the time he wasn't even in this. He wasn't even the person in the thing doing the movement, right?
Mhm.
And so he worked in his contract. If you're seeing Iron Man, the audience is still associating Robert Downey Jr. me as that person. I get paid whether I'm in that suit or not in the suit.
Ooh.
And so he's got that in his contract, right? Which is interesting because we're in an interesting day and age with technology and CGI and what you're able to do graphically. And my brother was showing me this new program, Sora AI. You guys seen that one?
I heard
what's
about
that?
it.
Oh my god, it's insane what it's able to do. It's not open to the public yet, I don't think, but you can put in like a script or text prompts, and it pumps out this fully flushed out 4K CGI rendering thing, and they look like people. I mean, it looks like
Is it
it looks
Sora
so.
AI or Sonora?
I
I saw Will Smith eating pasta. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know if it's not that one, but it's yeah. Well, but the Will Smith eating pasta AI has been a thing since the beginning of computer generated images.
And they showed a side by side when it first started to what it
Right.
does, what can happen now.
Yes.
It's crazy.
I mean, he's really eating pasta now.
With that being said, you heard that Drake song that's not a Drake song?
Yes, they did it to Bad Bunny also.
And for some reason it slaps. I'm just saying, yeah. I mean, yeah, AI is getting crazy.
Just saying, our AI overlords will soon take over. Once AI takes over, then we won't have a problem with these crappy movies, Rich. That's what's.
I don't know that that's necessarily the case either, because you look at, part of the thing is when an IP's been around for so long, there's usually so much to pick from, right? And so like Superman's been around since the 30s, dude. There's just so much content to pick from. Connie says Terminator, and we don't know why. Laugh out loud. Anyway, yeah, Terminator. AI overlord, I guess.
Yeah. Well, Joe's talking about Terminator 2. That's what he's talking about. Skynet. How Skynet's going to take over.
Oh, Skynet. Yeah. Listen, I'm on IG and I'm looking at this one story about the Broccolarians and like how vegetables became sentient and they're fighting this race of rabbits, and there's a race of broccolis, race of carrots. The carrots are the carotenoids, and it's a whole story. And I'm telling you right now, every time I see it, I watch it, and it's great. It is great. What's that?
So I'm intrigued with AI. Eventually, they will be using it for movies. For example, of what a CGI such AI could do to the film industry if the movie Simone with Al Pacino.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. You're going to start seeing you might start seeing the resurgent of old actors back in these things.
Yeah.
Which goes back to contracts and stuff. Robin Williams is one of the first actors I can think of who had a death clause in his contracts where he didn't want himself popping up and stuff after he was gone.
Yeah, he didn't want him vacuuming. Remember they had Fred Astaire vacuuming and doing all this stuff in these movies,
right? Or even in commercials, right? You started seeing like
they had
and James Dean.
They had a Black Mirror episode of that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Using AI,
so evil.
Yeah, the carotenoids. Yes, they're evil. They're
all right, let's get back to this debate.
Oh yes. So, like I was saying, it seems like we're getting content. First of all, we're getting content that if we do want it, they take their liberties and change things, and then the core fan base are like, yo, we don't like this. And then at this point, we're told, okay, we don't care if you don't like it, you're going to accept this. But mind you, there was Sonic the Hedgehog, where no one liked Sonic the Hedgehog, and the fans were up in arms about it, and they sat there and changed it. You remember the original Sonic the Hedgehog?
Oh yes, remember the original model of it?
When that abomination came out, people saw that.
Oh
Well,
yeah. Well, it's so funny. I mean, they even made a thing about it in the Chip and Dale film.
Yes.
Right? Ugly
Sonic.
So good.
So I'm just like, what is the problem with listening to the people who are actually going to watch this content? They're actually going to sit there and spend the time to go to the theaters and pay for everything.
You know what I think it is? I think what happens is that especially when you take stuff that's not meant for TV, like a video game property or something out of a comic book that wasn't originally like a screenplay, they may feel it needs more depth, and then once it gives them more depth, and they may make artistic liberties, it allows them to make those choices that we may not agree with as the core audience.
They didn't add no depth with all of this extra crap they put in. Maybe with Soren was all right, but with Quan, we didn't need Quan at all. I don't even know what's going on with her. She was on this moon planet for like 6 months, or the asteroid planet for like 6 months, and now she's like a super warrior or something.
She's just sitting there patting her weave, not doing.
Like, I don't even know how she grew out her bangs. Like, give me that regimen so I can grow my hair out again. Because you remember that horrible haircut she had at the first season. Now she got full on bangs and hair, flowing, luscious. But anyway, they're adding things that we don't necessarily want. And honestly, we don't even need, like, we don't need some of these plot lines. Like, we just want to see the fall of Reach, right? We want to see, the Spartans and the UNSC fighting off freaking the Covenant. Like, we want to see that. Give me more plot lines with the Covenant, how they interact within their group.
It may just be
it's going to be case by case, sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it's not going to work. Some of it is kind of like throwing paint on the wall and seeing what sticks and what works. Obviously there are things that are like, just what are you guys thinking? Like, Superman watches his father be torn apart by a tornado. There's no way of making that choice make sense with understanding the moral arc of his character. Superman would never watch his father be torn apart in a tornado. Even in an Elseworld comic, you're getting pretty far off the mark. So there's going to be weird things we got to deal with anytime someone's playing with the IP. Lawrence usually brings up the fact that film is a director's medium, and the director gets to tell the story or version of the story they want to tell. And I think that's true, especially if it's a one-off. If it's a one-off, you can have speeding bullets. You can have a kind of what-if version of the thing. I think there's a problem with it when you're trying to tether this thing to a bigger story arc. Then
that may be the problem. Yeah, is the universe building. Everyone feels they have to build a universe, and because of that, you need to add liberties and make connections where there necessarily wouldn't be connections originally. And because you're doing that, you're kind of diluting your core because you're trying to because it's a small cog in a bigger machine as opposed to being the machine itself.
Right. It's like, I've never personally been a huge Fantastic Four fan. I like the comics. I like what I like about them was what they represented and what the platform they created for other content to exist. And so I really, really appreciate the Fantastic Four, although I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan. So I'm not necessarily jonesing for the next installment of a Fantastic Four movie, especially if it's going to bomb like some of the other Fantastic Four movies. But I know the potential for what's in that dynamic to work out and be enjoyable. So, or like, here's an example. I was telling you guys about the Cosmic Ghost Rider, right? I was reading last week with the baby Thanos. That story wouldn't make any sense in a multiverse setting. and it would in a multiverse setting, but it wouldn't in a universal setting because you got the Punisher. He's not Ghost Rider. You don't want to see that. You want the Punisher to be Punisher. You want Johnny Blaze to be Ghost Rider, and you want to see those characters do what we 99% of the time know they do. But if it's a one-off film, then fine. Take liberties. Have fun. Let me see Frank
Right.
Castle be Ghost Rider and Cosmic. That's fun.
Yeah,
So
like
I think, go
I
ahead.
can see it like going back to the Halo thing. They had a whole compendium of Halo, like almost like an animatrix, right? I can see that where like they'll take their liberties to make that
Mhm.
world come to life. I got that, right? But when you're building something like like a whole series and you plan on having multiple seasons of this, I really don't feel like you should be taking liberties of the content.
It's interesting, man. It's a tough one because I'm split. On some level, I know that people are walking into a thing assuming genius. They're assuming that everyone's working as hard as they can to make the best product they think they can yield. In other cases, I know that, like the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern film, it sounded to me, I knew a couple people involved with that. It sounded to me like they knew it was a big piece of trash while they were making it. And they still pushed forward and made it. And some of the problem, it really does go back to the conversation we were having a few weeks ago, is these films have so much money behind it, and money represents voices. And sometimes you just get too many voices on a project, and you have to say yes to the money because they're the one paying your paycheck. And even though you know in your heart this doesn't work, and that's why you have so many directors fall off of a project.
Yeah.
It's why you have so many actors fall off of a project, or you have studios button heads with people that, what's his name, Edward Norton dropped off the Hulk because he was button heads about the follow-up movie. And who knows where the balance was, but what we do know is that a lot of people had a lot of opinions and they couldn't find the ability to continue forward.
Yeah.
And so in a lot of these cases, people just opt for, I get the opportunity to tell a story. It's still a story I love. Maybe it's not the story I really wanted to tell or thought I was telling when I got on board this project, but what am I going to do? Tell this guy who's just dropped $200 million into the thing to go kick rocks?
That's true. That's true.
I guess. I mean, yeah, you look at the money aspect of it, sure, but I'm still as a consumer, I'm still upset. Like,
Connie Laska says sometimes you can take liberties and have it really work. And I think it has to deal with remaining true to the essence of the character, the overall message they're conveying. I agree.
yeah,
On paper, you look at Christopher Nolan and Zack Snyder at the helm of the thing, and you go, well, Christopher Nolan's not going to make a bad decision with Superman. And yet, that script's got him snapping necks and watching his father get torn apart.
Yeah.
Example, Lord of the Rings. All the characters work really well.
We've spoken about this before. I think it also depends on the content too. Jackie made a good point in the beginning. Like, you could take Guardians of the Galaxy and take liberty with that, and no one's gonna bat their eye. But you do something with Superman, you change a little bit of the color of the logo, you something like that, everyone loses their mind. I mean,
Right.
it all depends on it all depends on the content. It all depends on how much source material. It depends on how popular the characters are. There's a lot of factors I think that factor in, and I don't know. I just hope that I think what it comes down to is going forward. I think things are flopping because I think it's number one where we're getting some fatigue. I think number two where they're digging deep for content and characters. All the big ones that they know are going to be hits have been hit. So now they're trying to go with secondary characters and these secondary stories and try to replicate what they did with kind of Guardians. And I think things are falling short. So I just think that I don't know. I don't know. I think they need to be more
Comic books present an interesting dilemma right off the bat when you go to make them live action, and I think the biggest dilemma you got as a filmmaker is their costuming. You know, like talk even about Superman. You know, like everyone's so polarized about the idea. Does he have his trunks on the outside, or did you get rid of him entirely and put him in pants? You're like, but he's Superman. It's iconic. It's based off that 1920s, 1930s strongman look. And you're like, yeah, we get that. But now we're into the 2020s. Do we really want to see what we now associate as underwear on the outside?
Right.
You're like, okay, all right. So maybe there's a balance to be found. I mean, look at your poster in the background, man. That's one of the sickest versions of Wolverine.
It's true.
Can they bring that to the screen? I don't know.
But Jack, to be fair, I think that's what Marvel's been doing. That Marvel's been in when it's come to either the shows or some of the stuff, they've been going to the core original type of costumes, and I think that they're doing that because they're realizing, black spandex or black latex is not going to be the answer to everything.
No, and it can't be.
No, it can't be.
ETC says this
Hold
is
on,
why
before we go there, let's go back to Connie Alaskis real quick. Connie Alaskis, like, very true. The fan base can be very picky about changes, which is correct. And what comes to mind is Constantine. Everyone's very upset that Constantine wasn't blonde, blue-eyed, with English accent, but because Keanu, he was, in my opinion, he fit the role. He just made it work, and everyone fell in love with that.
Yeah, but it took 20 years for them to fall in love with it, Rich.
Yeah,
Constantine.
It's a good movie, though.
It is a good movie, but Constantine with Keanu Reeves bombed when it came out, got tons of fan hate, and 20 years later, people were like, no, actually, it is a good film. And he is good casting, but he is not if you cast that version of Superman, if you cast that version of any of the characters, the way they cast Keanu with Constantine, fans are going to hate it. There's no way you don't hate it, because what the hell were you guys thinking when you cast this thing? You cast Keanu Reeves. That's what you were thinking. You were thinking Keanu Reeves is going to sell this film for us, but you were not trying to cast Constantine from any of the source material at any point of the source material's history. So of course that movie was trash, except it's not, but it took 20 years to get to there.
That's true. That may be true, because I didn't know anything about Constantine. I just saw Keanu Reeves and I saw the story, and I love the story, and I love Keanu Reeves. So that was that. But I'm going to tell you right now, no one's not going to look at this Halo series in 20 years and be like, oh, this was great. They did a good job with it.
Because what they did right with Constantine is they did stay true to the character.
And the story was good.
The story worked, right. The problem with the Halo content is, who are these characters?
Right. That's a good point.
ETC says, this is why they need to hire the video game and comic book writers if they're going to make video game comic book movies, shows, artists, and storyboards. Now, I agree and disagree with that, because there is a big jump between the content and in the content's form. I agree on the concept of that. I agree that if the comic book writers can be involved, and maybe in some cases should be involved, but there's a big difference between the dialogue and the flow of a cinematic film script and, say, the dialogue and the flow of a comic book. And they're just different. They're just different beasts.
What about a video game? I mean, you can sit there and look at a video game. It's like you're looking at a movie.
I was talking to a guy works with he used to do a lot of stuff with Insomniac. He talked about a video game script is like this, and it's usually more of like what you would consider a Bible. And so a show Bible, or in the industry setting, is basically just the overview and map out of all the characters and arcs that play out, right? And so that script is like this thick. Right. A typical film script is like 90 pages. 120 is really long for film script. So between 90 and 120 pages. Justice League series worked. Well, look at this. A Justice League series is a cartoon. So I think that is going to work out better, right? And I'm not saying it can't work out, but I am saying that the mediums are different. And so I understand that you might want to get someone like John Logan involved to flush out the script as opposed to, Dan Jurgen or something like that.
Sure.
I mean, listen, for when it comes to video game content, they definitely should include the writers that actually wrote out these games in the writing room, and then get some other writers too to get some fresh input in there. But at the same time, like you said, the video game script is like that versus the regular script is like
Well,
that. I mean,
here's a good example: the Invincible, Amazon's Invincible series, which has the same writer who wrote the comic books, and you can see how he has adapted his own content to fit this a more modern platform, and it works.
right.
Yeah.
Really good example of, and it works.
It first damn well worked. I think that's one of the best
Oh,
cartoons
the
out
first
there.
one, yeah, it hit so hard. But it doesn't always. Sometimes the problem is people holding something so tight that they can't let it grow and continue to evolve.
Right. It
And
may not
so
transfer.
then-
It may not transfer well to that medium, and because they're holding onto the core so tight, it never gets
Right.
developed the way it should.
And another thing I'll say is so much of the content we're consuming now isn't necessarily stuff where you even have access to the person who wrote it, and the person who wrote it might have wrote it 40 years ago or 30 years ago. And so it's okay that it's not necessarily, Sin City Frank Miller was a special director. Right. Well, Frank Miller too. Frank Miller in just about anything. Here's some guy who's a tried and true, field tested storyteller.
Yeah.
But look at whether you like the whole trilogy or not. What Nolan did with his Batman movies was cool and fresh and a really interesting, nice take on it. Right.
Good Omens had a collaboration with the author, and it was great. You need collaboration and fluidity with adapting. I agree. Good Omens was the one that all those people got so upset about, right? So, yeah. I mean, look.
Listen, it goes back to, I think more and more what we're seeing is people, the fans tend to put more trust into content when, say, Neil Gaiman is collaborating on Sandman. People have more trust in that content just because his name is tied to it. Right. Whereas opposed to if it's just a straight adaptation, fans are a little more hesitant to trust it right off the bat. Work on different art forms. You need to understand and find the balance, of course.
I
And
agree with that. That's a good point.
That's the whole nature of the conversation, right? You know that something's going to need to be adapted in order to fit the thing. I guess we might be a little off topic, Rich, but I think
Rich, this could have been a main event, Rich. You kind of you.
This could have been a main event. Listen,
it's not an easy one, right? And it almost feels like a loaded question because I have to have faith on some level that when people step to the plate, they want to hit the home run.
I think
they're going
to
try
hit
the home run.
I think they do, Jack. I think a lot of people think that they know better than the content. They know better than the people, and they want to do their own thing because they think they know better. But I think I don't think it's done purposely, though. I think its intentions are right, but the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Don't get me started on that Christopher Nolan film. His first two Batmans were amazing, and the third one, what the slap in the face was that? Hey, man, I think we can all agree with you on that one because what was going on with that film? Don't get us started on that Batman movie. What's wrong with you, ETC?
Sometimes
Get out of
here. To a cafe in Italy and look over and make sure everything's okay.
Man. That movie had so many. Yeah, all right.
Listen,
I think this debate we all won.
This really listen, I thought about this. I'm like, most of the time when I'm thinking about debates now, since we're rotating these hosts, I'm thinking like, what can we have an actual conversation about? And not necessarily someone being the winner. And I'll let y'all have that. Y'all can pick a winner and stuff like that. Y'all want to debate and someone can win. I just want to have a conversation of what's going on in media now, and then we can get our points out there.
No, it was a
So
good question. I think it was good.
Well, we may all be losers and winners with this one because it's the content that's judging it.
yeah. So with that being said, because we're in this thing for a minute. We've been talking for a while, but let's get to the main event. Let me get my ladies and gentlemen. We're here to talk about the Avatar. I'm sorry, not the Avatar. Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix. And let me get the IMDb. I should have had this loaded up.
Oh my God, Connie, Alaska. What is wrong with you?
I don't know why these chats are not. I'm doing all these chats manually. Lawrence is the winner. Connie,
Nope.
I'm taking that off right off the screen.
We don't need to show
right
that. We don't need to show that. Anyway, he ain't here. Okay. Avatar: The Last Airbender. IMDb, very very short. A young boy known as Avatar must master 4 element powers to save the world and fight against an enemy bent on stopping him. That's pretty much
All
it.
right. Spoiler free. So we are going to be talking about the entire season.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the entire season. Let's do spoiler free. We'll go start with you, Chris. Oh, wait, before you sneeze. There we go. All right.
Sorry. On paper, I should have liked it a lot more than I did. The fight scenes were freaking amazing, I thought. But I don't know. I was in and out a lot of the series. I rushed a lot of it because I don't know. I don't know what was missing. I can't put my finger on what was missing for me, but something was definitely missing for me, and I don't know what it was.
Was it that it wasn't animated?
No, it wasn't, because I thought it looked fantastic. I thought it looked fantastic. The fight scenes were good, but I had to really force myself to watch a lot of this stuff. It wasn't like I can't wait for the next episode. It was like, oh, come on. Like I had to drag myself through a lot of it. Thank you.
God bless you, Chris. Well, I think I have the answer to what you're feeling. You had a really young cast, and the 3 leads, a really young cast, and you're looking at probably their first real projects. So some of what you're experiencing is on the job training. The supporting cast, you got some veterans in there from other content. Spoiler free, I liked it. Visually stunning, spot on. Really faithful adaptation. Combat off the charts. This is good combat, man, and it's fun, and it's engaging, and it's just good combat, good cinematic combat, and fun how they're doing the bending. I mean, what can I say? It felt very faithful to the content. If you like the content, I think it's, yes, there are some changes, again, adapted. But I would find it hard to believe that if you really like the Avatar: The Last Airbender manga or cartoon, you're not going to like this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they definitely rushed a few things for the sake of the story, because as opposed to being several episodes, they only got 8 for this one, so they try to put a lot within these 8 episodes. Other than that, it looked great. The action was great. Yeah, it's a young cast, and you got that coming of age story, but they kept it pretty faithful to the original content. I would say, for the most part, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Can I ask a question about this? I'm just gonna jump in because this is the part that I felt. Not necessarily spoil. Yeah, I might just spoil it.
We're spoiled.
So this is geared in Netflix as family, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like I think where I had to disconnect, I felt it was struggling to find its target audience. where sometimes you see people be burned alive, and you're like, all right, and sometimes, especially with some of the interaction between the main characters, it was very childlike, and it was, I don't know, it's not childlike enough where I could keep Sebastian engaged, but
Yeah.
not adult enough where I keep my wife engaged. So
I don't
it's
know
funny
if
because
that's-
I have my wife who's a casual watcher, and I have my son who's 6. And you would think that I felt like this content would kind of fall right in between where I could keep them both engaged, but it engaged neither of them.
That's interesting. That was, that's kind of one of the questions I kept feeling with the One Piece content. I was like, is this for adults or is this for
Yeah,
kids? And I think we're gonna keep coming up to that because the cartoons are for kids, and yet the mangas are often a little more violent.
yeah,
Right. But
We
even
can all,
read that.
ETC says we can all agree that this series hits it out of the park compared to the film. Well,
Oh,
that's
by M.
yes,
Night
we can agree
Shyamalan,
on
yeah.
Yeah.
that. And that's not saying much. Again, agree on that. But did it? But
They
they,
did the animation show justice. I think they did.
yeah, I
At
think
one
so.
point, M. Night Shyamalan said that was the greatest movie he's ever made.
Oh,
He
God.
said that in an interview.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably definitely the largest scope movie he's ever made. So
Yeah.
from
Maybe.
from
Yeah.
a filmmaker's point of view, he could be speaking accurately. I guess it depends on what you gauge a thing on.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like keeping both sides, because yes, it comes from an animated side, and then you do have kids involved, and then it kind of gets a little mature with the violence at times. But the anime was good. I never read the manga. I looked at the cartoon, what,
It was
2020.
2003 it came out, right?
Yeah, but I didn't watch it at all because I was at that point. I'm sitting like I'm not looking at cartoons anymore. I was a young adult. But
Yeah.
I looked at it during the pandemic, and I'm like, yo, why did I not watch this when it came out? But it kind of hits that seesaw of like it's childlike, but at the same time there are like adult consequences to what's going on there because people
Yeah.
are dying here. This kid has to save the world. This kid is technically 12 years old. Well, technically he's 112 years old, but physically and mentally he is 12 years old. Coming out of this frozen state, and he now has to deal with saving the world that's pretty much been on fire from the Fire Nation,
Yeah.
and bring balance to the world. So
I
I
was really glad they added the prequel in the beginning of episode 1.
yeah yeah
Really helped set the whole platform for understanding Aang, and it also really helped understand his understanding of the world walking into this whole situation 100 years later, because he even missed the battle, right?
yeah
He was in
Yeah,
water
he
and
was flying with the whatchamacallit thing.
right. So I'm like,
Appa.
Yeah.
Appa. Yeah, I dug the fact that they again took liberties to create this whole backstory for Aang, because we're going to follow him moving forward. And I thought this is an example where again that you're really deviating from the source material, but you're actually just paying extreme homage to the source material by giving us this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stated that before when I told Joe about it. The beginning was not in the cartoon,
Right.
but again it adds context to what's going on, and you really see like this was a 12-year-old kid who was destined to be great, but he was
Right.
at the beginning of his whole journey, and
Can I tell you
he
one gripe I have with Aang?
was
Yeah.
that.
And it's true in the animated series too. Up until this battle, by the time you get to the end of this arc where the Fire Nation attacks the Northern Ice Tribe, Water Tribe, he pretty much does no other bending. He really doesn't. He does not do
Yeah,
any kind, and he talks about it the whole time. I know I need to do it. I know I should be doing it. I need to do it. It's my responsibility. I don't want to do it. He's kind of got the thing you hate going on, Chris. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
want it, don't want it,
Yeah,
don't
he
want it,
has
don't
the
want it.
power. He just doesn't want
He
to.
had the power, right? And he doesn't do a single water bend the whole time. He's sitting with her, who becomes really good by the end of it. He's got a rock, earthbenders he comes in contact with, and it's funny to see him never even attempt to raise a finger towards it.
Yeah, that's one of my grasps, but that's also one of those because they had so much content to compact into one. Like you'll see it in the cartoon, you'll see him doing all the bendings and being trained because he has to. That's the thing that he missed out on. But they're trying to get so much out and compact it into 8 episodes. So yeah, they definitely could have done that. I took it as when he talked to those when he talked to the other avatars in the
Yeah.
spirit realm, he kind of Matrix loaded him in with the information. That's kind of what I did. But you still don't see him doing it. He should have
You
been. He
never
should have been doing some of the
He
other
should have
bending.
done it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and by the time you get to the latter episodes and the latter series of the cartoons, I mean, he's actually training.
Yeah,
You never see him do anything other than avoid the work in this series.
yeah,
He should have Captain Planeted it and just done all the powers. Because Avatar is very much it's a lot with it shares a lot with Captain Planet, right? That where you have all these elements and then my powers combine, and that's
Wow.
Aang, right?
I didn't think about that.
Well, Aang is Captain Planet.
Of course, there's no heart. I guess the whole series is
Heart
heart.
was nonsense. First of all, we all know Heart was just filler because they needed to add in one more minority.
Hey, yo, so back to the series.
So yes, we start off at the beginning. Young Aang is being trained by the monks, and the main monk or the monk that he's closest to, I forgot his name.
This is a
Excuse me,
G, right?
something with a G. He's telling him he's being told that Aang needs to become more serious in his training, and he needs to get on with his journey to go to the other temples to learn the other bendings. Um, I loved Heart.
That's
Well,
Mati, Connie Alaska. That was his name.
Oh, man.
so
Spoilers. Hello,
Hey,
Jeffrey in
Jeffrey.
the
of course,
house.
I mean,
What's
listen,
going on?
what's going
Yeah,
on,
we're
Jeff?
spoiling it now.
Yeah, we're spawning it now.
The series good. This, well, I liked it.
Yo, Jeff, did you like it? Let us know. So yes, so he's
Jeff never
he's
watched the content before.
Oh, he never watched it. He just took a spoiler for him. He lives vicariously through three brothers in the shadow milk.
so the other monks are kind of in a disagreement, and then the older one is say, okay, I have to put him on the right path to becoming the Avatar.
Right.
With this happening, um, the other sky airbender, excuse me, the air monks are coming to this temple to have a celebration of, I believe, a comic was coming, right?
Every
Yeah,
100
it was
years.
a comic festival every 100 years.
get the comment.
Right. The Sozin, I believe it is. No, what's the name of that comic? Anyway,
That's
the
the next one. Oh, yeah, Susan's
yeah,
comment. Is the one that's
Sozin comic. So they're all coming to celebrate, and Aang goes off on his journey because he figured, why not? And while he's on his journey, him and Appa are in the middle of a storm. They get caught into it, and caught in the waves, Aang activates his avatar state, freezing Appa and him in a stasis type of thing, and he's there for 100 years.
Well,
While that's happening, at that night when he's on his way, starting his journey, the Fire Nation, they come to the realization, or there was an omen saying that the only person that can stop the Fire Nation from taking over the world is the Avatar, and knowing that the Avatar, because Avatar state goes through a line of benders. Through every bender, there's an
Yeah.
Avatar. So the Avatar in line was the Airbender. They know this. They're like the Airbender Avatar is going to just stop us, so we need to stop him. So that's what they went to the temple and they annihilated all the monks, pretty much. So fast forward. Now we're in the Water Tribe, the Southern Water Tribe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Uh, we're there watching Katara and not
Her
Zuko,
brother.
Sokka.
yeah, and this is pretty much where the series picks up.
Right. This is where the series picks up. We're 100 years later. So we're 100 years into the future. Wars have raged with the Fire Nation, with the other nations. Fire Nations kind of had a foothold in some places, and so on and so forth. Fire Nation's on top, and everyone is kind of, feeling the ramifications of the war. For the Southern Water Tribe, most of the men, most of the fighting age men and boys are out of the village because they have to go defend, and now you're stuck with teenagers pretty much and
Right.
and the elderly. So Sokka is kind of learning water bending. She doesn't have it. She's not good at it at all. They go on a fishing.
Well,
They
she
have
also has to do it in secret because
right. She has to do it.
if anyone found out she was bending, they'd execute her.
Right. So her and Sokka, they go out to go fishing because no one caught any fish for that day. And they stumble across, well, there was a water current that brought them to
Yeah.
the Avatar. She sees it. She kind of water bends a little bit, breaks him out, and now Aang is out and about. Well, he's unconscious. They bring him back to the village. Kind of warm him up, get him up to speed. He gets out and he's like real, just chipper to play, right?
He's
I mean,
12.
Well,
yeah,
he
he's
has
12
no
years old.
idea that 100 years have passed. He's
Yeah.
just a little disorientated and confused with where he is or why he's even there.
Yes. Started asking about his companion. He doesn't really state who his companion is. He kind of describes him a little bit, and then Appa pops up. I forgot if
He
he blew the
whistles at
whistle.
the
He
thing that his
whistled,
buddy had given him.
blew the whistle, blow the whistle. Choo. Anyway, that's the song. Don't worry about that. Appa comes up. You see a sky bison, and this is the first time they've ever seen a sky bison, so they're kind of all in shock. And then with that, what's his name? Zuko came. Oh, Zuko sees the sky bison, right? Man, I forgot. And these synapses are kind of a duty.
No, Zuko saw the light explode when
Right.
Aang was released.
They
And
were
so
in. Yes.
he reconfigures the direction of the ship to go after the
Yeah.
light.
Because Zuko is on the mission to find. Because Zuko's been shunned out from the kingdom. Zuko is the prince of the Fire Lord, the Fire Nation king, and he's been on to redeem himself. He's been looking for the Avatar. He figures if he captures the Avatar, brings him back to his father, they'll welcome him back in, and all of his sins will be forgiven.
Well, his father actually sent him on the mission, right?
Yeah. After he, well, this is jumping a little bit ahead. After he downplayed the
Right.
mission, everything, the war plan, excuse me. And then had a battle. What do they call it? Anyway, him and his father got into a fight because he downplayed the battle, the battle plans. He got defeated. He got defeated because he hesitated, and his father took that even more as weakness, and that was a whole other thing. Anyway, bring it on back. They see the beam of light. They'll, after arguing a little bit or a little frustration because he's upset, they see a beam of light. They're like, "Oh, that has to be where we're going. We're going over there." They head over, and at first they're trying to play like the Avatar's not there. No one's there, and the Fire Nation are now they're trooped up. They got their men's with them. They got the army. They got the soldiers with them, and they're about to lay waste to this South Water tribe. And Aang comes out. Yeah, Aang comes out and it's like, oh well, I'll go with you. All right.
Well, yes. The Fire Nation shows up to the Water Tribe and they say, "Hey, we know you have someone who probably shouldn't be there with you. Turn them over, and we won't decimate you."
Right.
And the brother, Sokka, says no. And so he fights for Aang. He gets his butt kicked, and then Aang steps in to supersede it. He also basically, every time Aang is in a position where giving up himself to help anyone else, he always pretty much offers himself. So, listen, stop what you're doing. I'll go with you. And then it's already gone on too far, so they end up fighting. So Aang steps in, ends up winning the fight. No, he doesn't. He ends up going with them. Right? They take him prisoner. Is the next kind of plot, and then Sokka and the sister jump on the Sky Bison to go rescue Aang, who by the time they get to Aang, he's actually already rescued himself.
Right.
And so it all kind of works out, and they're all on the Sky Bison now, going, well, we can't go back to the Southern Water Tribe. I guess we need to head forward. Where can we take Aang? Aang goes, take me here. So they take him back to his home, right?
And yeah,
and this is the first time Aang's seeing
the devastation of what happened that night.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's 100 years later. It's still
it's also 100 years later.
And they are introduced to the flying monkey.
The flying monkey. What was that flying monkey's name? Momo.
Momo, or something like that. Yeah, very close to that.
Flying monkey squirrel. So they come across. They introduced to Momo.
Right.
He realized that he needs to he's coming with grips of what was happening, what happened 100 years ago, and realize he has to continue his journey to being the Avatar and training. And then they go to Kyoshi Island.
Right.
So they land on Kyoshi Island. They come across the statue of Kyoshi, if I'm not mistaken. And Aang goes into his avatar. No, he doesn't go into his avatar state just yet. He tries to go meditate, but then the warriors of Kyoshi Island, they ambush him, take him to the Elder, and because Kyoshi Island is a closed off island, is an island off of the Earth Kingdom, and they've been kind of on their own and not neutral, but just doing their own thing and fighting when they need to during the whole 100 years.
They've pretty much been left alone by the Fire Nation because the Fire Nation has deemed that island inconsequential.
Right. And one of the avatars, Kyoshi, she was one of the great warriors of that island. Now, for those who don't know, Kyoshi Island, they're an island of mainly women because all the men and fighting age boys, they went out to war. So mainly you have kids, the elderly, and women, and those women have become pretty dope fighters.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, pretty dope fighters, pretty dope earthbenders. So they go there, they kind of plead their case of why they're there. He's the Avatar, he needs to learn the ways, so on and so forth. Sokka, he's over here doing being a little how can I say this? Charming, yeah, charm. He's being charming.
This was a role that they changed versus the actual cartoon, right?
Yeah, the cartoon, Sokka in the cartoon's a little more oblivious, blunt, and you might say one-dimensional. I mean, he takes a lot longer to kind of gain roundedness, I'll say.
Yeah. What was the girl's name? Suki? Where you at? But anyway, so he goes off and they kind of have, there's like a little connection because this girl hasn't seen a boy her age in who knows how long, right? And then he's Sokka's being Sokka. So he sees him training and he comes along and he's like kind of outside doing the training. Oh, also he was displaying his weapons. Right? He had the sharpened boomerang. He was showing how it works, and then she showed off her skills with the fan blades, and those things are pretty dope. And yeah, so then they kind of go into like a hand-to-hand combat thing, which Ahsoka really isn't that great with the hand-to-hand combat. So he's walking past the village. He sees her training the other warriors, and he's kind of outside doing the whole following. And she brings him in and starts training him, and then you kind of see the little spark and connection happening with the two. And then while that's happening, Aang is going off to the statue to commune with Kyoshi, excuse me, so he can have that talk with her. And she brings to light that he needs to learn how to pretty much be the Avatar and how to bring the world to peace by himself.
Well, her take on it is also a little more extreme, a little more violent. And what Aang doesn't know, this is the first time Aang is talking with a former Avatar. And what we find out, as he finds out, is that when he's in the temple of the Avatars, he can give over his body to them and they can basically manifest through him to be back on Earth, but only within that space. And we see that play out a couple times. The other thing we find out is Aang assumes all the Avatars are kind of the same. because his first interaction with this avatar is she's very rigid, very by the book, and very aggressive. And so Aang is kind of turned off to the whole idea of being an avatar in the first place right here, because he understands that he's going to have to hurt people. And again, we're dealing with a 12-year-old who doesn't want to hurt people. He wants to play with people for the most part.
Just give me powers, man. You know what? Situations like this, just give me powers and let me do what needs to be done.
But he doesn't. He doesn't know what needs to be done though. Like he's.
But no, this is the part I have, because even though, like, okay, when we see the first cutscene that yes, he was raised to train, they trained him. Even though in the beginning he doesn't know he's the Avatar, he's been trained all his life. So I don't know why he acts so naive about things.
Well, and he enjoys. Well, he does talk about the training later in this series, where he talks about he wasn't ever really a good student per se. It just all came naturally to him. So he was born with a great ability for airbending, where all the other kids were like a little hesitant to be around him because he's so OP, right?
Right.
But he has no basis. He'll probably be the same with the other bending skills once he kind of starts playing with them, but he avoids any kind of dabbling. So then the next thing that happens in this episode, right, is the Fire Nation shows up to the island and they start wrecking havoc on it. And the Avatar says, "I'll show you, Aang."
Right.
And she takes over his body. And this is the first time we really get a warrior Avatar scene, and she just decimates the Fire
lays
Nation.
waste to them. So she lays waste. Aang goes into Avatar state. Kyoshi takes over his body. You know, jumps in the mechanoid droid and starts taking control of his body, and absolutely decimates. Well, not gonna say decimates, but messes up the Fire Nation, or at least that army of the Fire Nation, Zuko's army, and pretty much kicks him off.
Actually,
But then
is Zuko there? It's not. By this, isn't it the other guy at this point?
oh, that's right. They kicked him. Well, they took over, if I'm not mistaken. They took over. He took over the ship, and they're kind of like on their own.
Right. So there's I forget that guy's name. There's a general who Zuko, with the tutelage of his uncle, kind of start giving information. This guy, he doesn't kick Zuko out yet. He's the one who gets to report that there's a sky bison flying around. So he just takes it upon himself to go check it out because he wants the credit, right? So he kind of just cuts Zuko out of the information flow, shows up on the island, gets his butt kicked, runs off.
That was Admiral Zhao, if I'm saying that right.
Right.
So they get messed up, get kicked off the island, and now they realize, oh well, we got to move on to the next thing. Thank you for the training, Ahsoka. Thank you for being my girlfriend for like 2 minutes.
Right.
And they keep it pushing. Now they're going off to the Earth.
What they're actually doing is that Avatar Kyoshi tells Aang, you have to go to the Northern Ice waterbending tribe. You have to go there. You have to go there now, and you have to start your training because they're going to get decimated. And so from this point on, the whole rest of the series is following Aang on his journey to the Northern waterbending tribe. Along the way, he makes a few pit stops. He decides to go to the
Amashu
first because it's on the way, and it should, in theory, be a good place for him to pick up any kind of earthbending skills.
Right. So they get there. They meet the mechanist.
Right.
What was his name? Oh, these things are not in any order. Anyway, not Jet. No, Jet was the other guy. So they meet the mechanist.
Episode 3 going into 4 now.
Yeah, now we're in episode 3, going into 4. So they catch up. Well, first he sees who we thought was an airbender. It ends up being a kid flying around in his flying machine.
Right.
So he thinks, oh well, you're not an airbender. You're just a fraud or whatever. There was a bombing and they kind of break off their own ways. Yeah, do whatever she told you to do. There was a bombing. The kid says, "Oh, come with me." Or the kid is hurt a little bit, so they bring him to the Mechanist. The Mechanist is like, "Oh, this is my son." Blah 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 blah. So Suko and Katara are there dealing with the Mechanist. Aang is up still in the village. Oh no, what's his name? What's his name?
I don't know, man. I'm
I
telling you,
forgot
I
his
was
name.
in and out.
Zuko.
These 2 episodes, I
Yeah,
was in and out. I was in and
I
out.
ain't gonna hold you. I was out in and out a little bit too. I had to go back and watch. I had to go back to the end of season episode 2 to pick it back up. Zuko and Aang kind of gets into it. They're fighting a little bit. A whole thing in the market. Fires. He's putting the fires out. The the Earth Nation comes. Uh, the Earth Nation guards come, and the Uncle Iroh, he makes a whole spectacle, kicks his nephew out of the way, so he got arrested, and then also Aang got arrested because it looked like he was kind of doing, setting the place on fire, even though he was putting the fires out. Um, they're now in jail. Katara, Suka, they kind of need to find out how to get Aang out of jail. Along the way, they meet Jet, who's who's with a band of rebels who's going against the Fire Nation, but in actuality, they're actually fighting the Earth Nation. They're like rebel terrorists. And also, the Machinist, this is jumping way ahead. The Machinist is working with the Fire Nation spies to kind of overthrow the Earth Nation. Yeah.
Well, he's not trying to overthrow the Earth Nation. He's trying to barter a situation where the Fire Nation won't invade their territory. So he's giving the Fire Nation information and tech as a way of keeping them at bay. So he's working with them to actually protect the Earth Nation, right? And so the other plot point that's happening is everywhere Aang's going, Zuko is now, the Prince of the Fire Nation is now actively one step behind him, on his tail, is constantly trying to capture him because it's the only way Zuko can get home. Zuko has to capture Aang the Avatar in order to be let back home. So when Aang and his buddies, the only way they're able to even get into the town is because Jet, the leader of the terrorist faction, puts him in his caravan to let him in, and then Zuko has to break into the town and his own accord, right?
Right.
And so they're both in prison at this point. Not Zuko. The uncle is in prison because he took the rap to let Zuko get away, and Aang is in prison because he was in the middle of the thing trying to put out fires, but all that the guard saw was someone who's not an earthbender using powers. Let's lock him up too. And then we get this really interesting thing where we're introduced to the king, right?
Yes. And the king Boomy.
King Boomy, yeah.
Boomy,
yeah. King Boomy, who's like 112 himself. And we come to find out that Boomy and Aang used to be boyhood friends back when they were both 12, right?
Yes.
And Boomy is the guy who created the rock whistle that allows Aang to call his bison in the opening episode.
Yes.
So they've been best friends for a while. I think we can jump through most of this and let's skip to the Boomy Aang fight.
Yeah, let's just because
so Boomy 100 years later is very jaded by everything that's been happening on the world, and he's pissed at Aang because Aang, where did you go, man? You ran off when we needed you most, and you are the Avatar who had the ability to stop this last 100 years of bloodshed, war, and destruction, and you just pieced out. So Boomy's pissed. So he challenges Aang to a series of what he calls games and challenges, ultimately just resulting into a fight where it comes to a head where Boomy's trying to prove a point that the Avatar has to make the extreme sacrifice that no other person is able to make, which is also echoed by all the Avatars, all of the past Avatars along the way that Aang talks to. So, of course, he's in that moment where you have to make the ultimate decision. It's it's basically Spider-Man holding the bus full of children and
or Black Panther when they're in the yeah.
Exactly. It's the same old trope played out a million times. Only in this case, Aang gets a free pass because here comes Sokka and his
Ahsoka and
sister
Katara. Yeah.
Katara coming in, and they save the day. And Aang says to Boomy, basically, I don't have to do this like the other avatars did it. I've got Team Avatar, and we're going to do it together and be a team. And Boomy, for the first time in 100 years, his heart kicks back in. And this is what Aang does. This is what Aang does. Aang isn't like the past avatars where he beats it out with his fist or his other bending skills, because Aang is that fifth element, heart, and it's great
Shit,
he
he's my
wins
chief
everything
captain
over, right?
pilot.
I'm sorry, but it's true. So now
Yeah.
we're leaving this place and we're headed to episode 4 into 5. Where are we going now? He's off to the Northern Water Tribe again.
Yeah. I mean, before we do that, I like how Boomy was kind of bringing in while he was doing these fights. He's like, you have to make these hard choices. Like, and he was bringing up his examples while he was going through this 100 years of life without
Right.
Aang. It's like, oh, well, who will get fed? Will this village get fed or my soldiers? Will this village get saved or should I save the capital and so on and so forth? It's like, you have to make these hard choices.
Right.
And yeah, he's right. So now we are boom spirited away. They find a lone. I feel like we could pass this.
Well, let's hit the highlights of this one. So in this episode, what we understand is that there's a whole spirit realm that's coinciding with the physical realm. And
Right.
in this episode, Aang is reunited with a past Avatar's villain who has the ability to
Change faces.
eat your soul and steal your face, essentially.
Right.
And the past Avatar stole a totem from this villain, which this becomes important later. The other thing that's really fun in this episode is Aang gets a chance to talk to his old monk mentor, who instead of when he died leaving to go to heaven or whatever, he decided to stay in the spirit realm because he figured at some point he'd have the ability to talk to Aang again. So you get this really nice scene between him and Aang again, and Aang gets a little bit of closure where his monk teacher says, Aang, I need you to know that even though you have all this tremendous guilt for having disappeared in the moment where the world needs you most, if you had stuck around, you would have just been dead, same as all the rest of us. So relieve yourself of that burden. And Aang takes it to heart for the first time. And I think as the audience, we needed him to have this scene where he could just go on to doing his thing as the Avatar. Now, meanwhile, what happens is while he's in this kind of spirit realm, he inadvertently sucks Sokka and Katara into the spirit realm with him. And Sokka, who's very charming, ends up charming a three-tailed fox.
Yeah.
And him and his sister are captured into this dark kind of nightmare spirit realm where again Aang meets this villain of a past Avatar. So then Aang has to go get the totem that he can barter with this villain demon creature in order to save the village who they've come to. So I'll fill that in real quick. When they were here in the spirit realm, they're making their way to the Northern Water Tribe. But every time Aang gets to a place where he identifies there's conflict and problems, he goes, I have to save this too. I can't just go there. I have to fix things along the way if I'm seeing it. And so he agrees to try to save all these people who have just gone missing. And turns out they've all been kind of pulled into this spirit realm. So he gives the totem to the spirit creature, saves the town, wins his friends. The sad thing about this episode is he does go back to talk to his mentor because he had to cut that conversation short. And when he got back there, he was no longer there. And so that was kind of like a sad thing. And then they continue on to the Northern Water Tribe all the way again. Sokka is in not Sokka, Zuko.
Zuko, yeah.
The hot
is in
pursuit.
hot pursuit. And the other thing we have playing out throughout this,
Zuko.
all throughout the series up to this point, is we're slowly building Zuko's backstory, leading him here and with his uncle. And the way that basically plays out is Zuko stood up to his father because he didn't want to see the Fire Nation cadets just butchered aimlessly in a frivolous assault, which he knew was going to lead to just them being killed. And so when he spoke up against that to his father challenged him to a battle. Zuko lost the battle, and his father sent Zuko on a quest, said, "You're not coming home until you find the Avatar," which is a quest that no one expected to be fruitful. Here we are 3 years later. He's been adamant about piecing together where the Avatar might be. And the father gave him the cadets that he was just going to use for fodder. And they didn't know that. But by this point in the content, I think the uncle tells one of the cadets, who seems to be jaded against Zuko in the first place, that, hey, listen, he actually saved y'all's life.
Yeah, I think it was Gee.
Gee, right. And so I think that's where we're at now. And now we're headed to, again, the Northern Water Tribe. And I think we get there by the next episode, right? There's no more
Um,
stuff on the way.
well, no, they Zuko and his uncle Ira, they enlisted the help of a bounty hunter.
Yes.
He goes to the fire. He goes to the fire temple, which the fire temple monks were attacking him because they're Fire Nation.
That's right.
One of them had his back. That's where he got the totem from. He had his back. Showed him the fire temple. He communed with the spirit.
Mhm.
He got the totem. Went back, did the whole thing, and then after that, well, actually no, before that. Oh, actually, that was like in between all that. He got caught again because he got knocked unconscious because the bounty hunter caught up with him. The mole creature hit him with the paralytic tongue. He got knocked unconscious again. Well, not again. He got captured again, and they went to go. They brought him to a temple, or not a temple, a dungeon or whatever. Right. So now Zuko, his uncle's also captured again. He dons the mask. He's the, what's it called? The blue spirit.
Yeah.
So he goes to rescue Aang, who pretty much got himself out for the most part.
Again, right?
Yeah, again, yeah. So he goes, he gets out. They're fighting the Fire Nation guards, everything. Which the fight scene was cool, but at the same time, they had the whole thing where they put up ladders to go climb up there. Like, you have full reign of the
Wind.
whole. No, not when you got full reign of the fortress. Why are you climbing up like you're storming the castle on ladders? But that turned into a whole thing where they used those ladders as a stepping stone to kind of get to the outer wall. But then got knocked down by Zhao.
Right. The general.
Right, the general.
Admiral or whatever he.
Um,
Yeah, he's
so
general.
So Aang saves them from falling down, from crashing down too hard. They end up getting out. Zuko ends up getting an arrow to the head, and knocking him out. And Aang was about to leave him, but then saw him, and Aang being Aang, he helped him up, and he got away safe to safety. After that, Zuko regains consciousness. He kind of goes through this whole thing where he was like, "Oh, I helped you because I wanted to capture you, so on and so forth." So he was still dead set on capturing the Avatar. Aang had to knock him out again, put him in the boat because Zuko said, "I'll have a boat not too far away." Put him in the boat. He once again regained consciousness, and they go through another set of dialogue where he was about to get messed up again, but Aang was like, "Nope." Fire flip, or a wind flip, deflecting the fire and then pushing the boat out into sea or to the river, and then Aang went a separate way. And now we are where we at?
Yeah, and all that stuff is really important to track too, because what they're doing is they're planting the seeds for Zuko, and this is a major spoiler. Series later ends up being part of Team Avatar, right? And so
Right.
what they're doing is they're planting the seeds for the imbalance between
transition.
between what's happening with Zuko and his father's dynamic and his sister dynamic, because all the way the father has
Yes.
been pitting the son and the daughter against each other to see who's going to rise and be the most powerful heir to the throne and lead the nation. And so the father's really orchestrating this ridiculous drama between the family.
And we're
And
introduced to the sister, Azula.
you're right.
We're introduced to the sister who we come to find out told the general or the admiral about the brother, about how to detect him, his weapons, and so on and so
Right.
forth. So that's how he knew that the blue mask or the blue spirit was Zuko.
Yeah.
And then from there, they sky bison. They hop on Appa, and they make their way to the northern water bending.
Finally, we're here.
Finally,
Yep.
we finally make it. We get there. They're accepted in with open arms for the most part. We introduced to the princess.
Mm-hmm.
What is Princess? Oh, geez, something. Anyway, so we introduced to the princess. We introduced to the master, the waterbending master, and now Katara wants to learn, but then he's like, "No, you can't learn because you're a girl. Girls can't be waterbenders, or they can't be warriors." So it's like you'll go with the women folk and cook our dinners and whatnot. And she's like, "No, I'm not doing
That's
that.
not
I'm gonna
what
fight with
he says.
them."
He says you gotta be a healer. That the women are healers. You're still using your water bending, but you mend our wounds. Yes,
Yeah.
it's sexist,
I like Rich's version a lot better.
but it's not cook our dinners and mop our floors. Come on.
So so they get into a fight. She challenges them to a fight. They get into a fight, and she holds her own for the most part. She technically loses. No, not technically. She loses, but technically she wins because now everyone can see. Oh wait, she's a pretty good waterbender without really any training. She held her own against our master bender. So now people are kind of the younger ones, the women. They're looking up to her. Now we come to find out they go out to leave. Oh no, they're scouting. They were scouting. Excuse me. They were scouting out on the Sky Bison. They come to find out. Oh, they see the Fire Nation tribe coming. Like, we got to go back and warn them. So they go back. They warn them. They tell them, listen, they're about like 2 hours away. We got to get everything ready.
Right.
So now the Master Bender, he's telling everyone what to do, divvying out orders, and this, that, and the third. Also, Sokka is raising up the princess as well. This man, I don't know, he just has Riz all day.
He does. He just spits that game.
Just all day. So yeah, they end up divvying out the workload. Katara is saying, okay, what do you want me? I want to fight. Put me in the game, coach.
Put me in, coach.
And the Master Bender was like, no, we can't. No, you go again. Make me a sandwich. And she was like, no, this is not fair. I don't want to do this. And then he comes to his realization, like, oh well. And now one of the women elders, she came, but like we're all in this together. We need to kind of everyone needs to help in this fight because they're coming to wipe us all out. And then he comes to the realization, like, oh yeah. So now he's like, okay, you go here, you go there. Katara, you go hang out over there. Oh, if you need anything else, talk to Katara. And then one of the young lads, he was like, oh yes, thank you, master. Talking to Katara because when he tells him to go, help out with the wall defenses and building up walls. Right? Now we got Zuko, his uncle. They're in the ship. He lost full control. They're about to do a full-scale invasion. He goes off on his own to get in. The uncle kind of gives him a quick little heads up to remember your fire breathing. Look for a flow of water going out because more than likely that's the way in. Remember your fire breath breathing because it could save your life. They also have a nice touching moment where he was like, you are the best uncle ever. Your son would be proud. Tear streaks down, hugs. Everything's all fine. But we'll have this conversation again when I'm back here with the Avatar, right? So he goes off. He makes his explosive wave through a drain. They come to find out more of the the northern water tribes, they have an oasis, which is flush green lands with ponds and rivers and waterfalls, and within that is the water spirit, right, for the
Okay.
water bending. You got two spirits there. You got one for the ocean and you got one for the moon, and they're just so at a time where the moon is full, where the moon spirit comes down in physical form with the ocean spirit.
Once every 100 years.
Right. So now we come to find out that Zhao knows about this. He talks to one of the monks, the fire monks, and he tells them about this. And they also just so happen to have a blade from the northern avatar, from the northern water tribe avatar,
Spirit
which
blade.
right, a spirit blade that he made from materials from the spirit world, and that's the only thing that can kill a spirit in this world.
Now, also, we jump the part where Aang actually talks to this avatar.
Yes, yes,
So Aang talks to the Northern Water Tribes avatar because what he's hoping to do at this point, he goes, "Hey, listen, when I was at the other island, you know, I gave my body over to the avatar and she beat all the guys. Can I just do that with you?" And he basically says, "Nah, dude, I'm not going to be of any help to you. My body is wrecked from my
yeah,
time of being in the spirit world and my battles I had in the spirit world alone, let alone the battles I had when I was the avatar dude. So I can't help you, man. You're on your own." And
yes.
Aang is just like,
Oh,
Damn.
"Oh,
oh,
we're SOL."
yeah, yes. So we get that. Come to find out,
Also,
what's that?
sorry to jump in again. When uh when Soka, Katara, and
Katara, yeah.
Aang go sky bison surfing to because they have a plan to take out these ships one by one, and they take one of them out, right?
Hmm.
And then they go back up and they like, all right, let's take the next one out, and they see that there's probably a million more ships in the ocean, and that's when they go back and they go, like you already said, Rich. Hey man, there's a lot of ships. We're done, and they're gonna be here in like 2 hours.
Yeah,
And they end up showing up in like an hour. Like they're cruising.
yeah. They're moving. I mean, it seems like it's the whole navy that's coming after them,
Yep.
which makes sense because the King Ozai, right, Fire Lord Ozai, he knew he could pretty much contracted or crafted this whole scheme or plan, military plan, as a way to get everyone over there, get this, kill the Avatar, and pretty much wipe out the Northern Water Tribe. But also, oh no, let's not jump ahead on that one. Anyway, so
Which actually we will need to talk about
we
that
will
when
need
we
to
get
talk
there.
about it.
'Cause
Yeah,
it actually doesn't make sense when you look at the grand scheme of things.
yeah. So the main ship where Zhao is on, he breaks away because Iroh was like, well, their walls are indefensible. There's no way you can get over them, no way you can get around them, and on top of that, they got the full moon, which amplifies their power even more.
Right.
So that's where we get into the whole spirit thing, and now he brings out the hot air balloon that the mechanist from the Earth Kingdom was making, that also Zuko helped to make. So he's like, "Oh, we're going to take this in." He was like, "Well, you really can't do anything with this." And then he brings out his whole idea of what he's going to do. He's going to capture and kill one of the spirits. Not all of them, just one, the moon one. And then Iroh is sitting there trying to tell him, well, you can't destroy the moon because that'll bring an imbalance to the world because the moon does a lot for everything. It's like, yeah, but it will stop the water nations or all water bending from happening.
Right.
So now they fly in, they land. He grabs the fish. Well, they try to figure out which one it is because they don't know. They don't know what it looks like. So we don't know what the spirit looks like at all. Like I was like, well, it could be one of the trees. It could be a blade of grass. It could be a bug. So they come to see a pond and they see the two fishes. Like there it is.
Two
So they
koi
grab
fish.
the fish. It's two koi fish. One black with a white spot. One white with a black spot. Yin and yang balance. So they grab up one of the fishes, put it in the bag, and Aang makes his well. Oh, so Zuko and Katara get into a fight, and while all this is happening,
Mm-hmm.
um, they're kind of going at it. It's kind of like a rematch because they fought before. Aang, Aang kind of gets the whole idea that, oh, well, I need to go check on the spirit. He hears yelling, so he goes in. They get to the oasis. Zhao has the fish. He's like, oh, I'm going to kill it. He's going to be like great spirit killer Zhao. Like he's reveling, doing the mustache twirling speech, and ended up. It looks like he wasn't about to do it. Right? Drops the fish, gets blasted away. Aang starts airbending the fish up, but then he grabs the blade. Zhao grabs the blade, stabs the fish. The moon turns red. The spirit animal is now dead. The spirit of the moon is dead. Moon turns red. All of the water bending has ceased. No water benders have powers anymore. They're all weakened, and they start getting wrecked.
Oh, to say the least.
Yeah, they start getting wrecked. Aang comes to the realization, like, well, I can give up my body to the water spirit in order to win this, and he gives up his body to the ocean spirit, and he turns into this big. Anyone looked at Naruto Shippuden when Naruto gets his Jinchuriki powers, and he's like got this whole full form of the nine-tailed fox. He's like that, but in koi, a koi, and he's like flooding the whole city and just wiping out all of the Fire
Basically,
Nation armies.
water Godzilla.
Right,
Yeah.
water Godzilla, right. A water kaiju, yes. So he's doing all that, and then they come to the realization like, oh wait, well someone needs to someone needs to take up the whole the ocean or the moon spirit, right?
So a little bit of backstory filled back in.
Okay.
The three-tailed fox that Sokka meets in the spirit world is also the princess of the Northern Water Tribe. And the reason she's able to walk in the spirit world and be the princess is because when she was a kid, she was very sick and basically died. And her father brought her to this magical water in the oasis.
Isn't that a Korean like folklore? The multi-tailed fox.
Well, the three-tailed fox is definitely symbolism. Yeah. The three-tailed fox and nine-tailed fox and all that stuff is, you see that in Pokemon, you see that in Japanese lore, you see that in Chinese myth. So you see that played out a lot. But anyways, the father takes her, puts her in the sacred waters, and prays to the moon god, the moon spirit, to save his daughter. And the moon spirit does. And the way the moon spirit saves his daughter is by imbuing the daughter with a little bit of its own spirit. And so the daughter has the moon spirit in her, and she's able to walk in the spirit world in her dreams, and she's able to be, in the normal world in her waking. The other thing that we kind of missed is the daughter, or the sister, right? She's really vindicated in this episode as not just being a phenomenal waterbender, but she's given the title of master.
Yes.
By the other waterbenders, and it's kind of a tear-jerking moment where you feel just so good for her to have that kind of vindication leading into the battle right before she has with what's his face, the prince of the firebenders,
Zuko.
right?
There's also another. I think this comes on the second half of it, but she also learns how to bloodbend, which is pretty dope.
With that, it's because that's what the guy says. He says women are healers, so go learn how to heal. And blood is basically just another liquid, right? And so then what happens is Suko was tasked. He's kind of a tragic figure. He's not a warrior, and he wants to be a warrior. But what he learns in this episode is that maybe you're not a warrior, but you can still be a hero. And he is tasked with the responsibility of looking after the princess of the Northern Water Bending tribe. But in this moment, while you got Kaiju, Avatar just destroying the Fire Nation, and he is, because basically what happens is after the Moon Spirit is dead, Aang gives his body over to the Ocean Spirit, but the Ocean Spirit is just pure rage and is going to spend the rest of eternity in search of the Moon Spirit, which no longer exists. And so he's not just going to wreck the Fire Nation; he's going to just probably destroy the world after a while. And so what happens is Sokka kind of just poses a question inadvertently to the princess: how can we bring the Moon Spirit back? Because what they just saw happen earlier was the princess was able to bring the monkey back, the flying monkey, because the flying monkey was injured and almost dead by saving people, and they brought the monkey to the sacred water, which is why they were there in the first place. And so he poses the question to her: how can we save the Moon Spirit? And if we can do that, then we'll stop Aang from being taken over and destroying everything. And she goes, oh, I know how to do that. And she basically freezes him in his tracks so he can't move. He's stopped because she'll know he'll stop her if he can move, Sokka. And she scoops up the koi fish, the Moon Spirit, and she walks into the sacred waters. And in that moment, you knew what was going to happen, because we knew that she is also part of the Moon Spirit, still lives in her.
Right.
And so she sacrifices herself to give life back to the Moon Spirit. And it's sad. And Sokka's sitting there going, ah. And then, Kaiju Aang stops because the moon lights back up. And the funny thing about the moon, it went from red as the fish was bleeding out to black to gone.
Yeah.
And so there was literally, the moon had disappeared entirely. And the moon basically turns back on, and Kaiju, Aang, water, fish, spirit, monster, Godzilla looks up and sees the thing and the pull of the moon, and so you saw in the form of the creature a softening in its eyes, and the water just dissipates, and Aang falls out into the ocean, and balance is restored for a moment. The battle is over. The Fire Nation is destroyed. The water-bending tribe is destroyed, but they're victorious. But heavy casualties on all sides, right?
Yes. Yeah, and then they go back. You see Ira and Zuko. They fight Zhao for a moment. Zuko was about to kill him, but he was like, "No, I'm better than this," and then kind of just hit the wall next to him, but still defeated him. And Ira killed him. Take that back.
Well, because what happened is Zuko goes for the killing shot, stops, has a moment of humanity, blows up the wall. He turns away from him, and then in that moment, the admiral, who's bad, stands up to kill him from behind, and then the uncle blasts him into the water, just obliterating him, so he's gone entirely.
It actually, just jump back real quick. When Zhao kills the Moon Spirit, you see old Ira, the Great Dragon, I believe they called him. You see a little bit of him coming out, and he starts blasting the soldiers.
Oh, right.
Real quick.
Well, there's something interesting. The other thing that's interesting about this episode, so the uncle was known as the dragon killer slayer or something like that, right? Because he was so devastating. But the other thing that's interesting about this episode is, we get the history of bending in general. And it seemed like the original firebender was a dragon, and dragons no longer exist.
Right.
The original earthbender was this badger mole, this blind badger mole.
Yep.
And the original airbender were the bison. What was the original waterbender?
I don't remember. I guess it was the fish.
Maybe it was.
They were their own little spirits. They didn't. I don't think they had a physical form.
Huh. But it seemed like the original benders were always animals. They were nature, right?
Yeah.
And then humans saw what they were doing and how they were doing, and they picked up on it.
Yeah. Original waterbender. Anyway,
They're
so anyway,
saying it was-
Yeah.
we
So
we move on.
Zuko and the uncle escape.
They escape. Everyone kind of Suko is sorry, Sako. Ugh, these names. Soka, excuse me. He's kind of like in tears, going to the chiefs, like, sorry, I couldn't save her. I couldn't do anything.
Right.
They're laying their dead, not to rest, but they're covering them up, and they're kind of gathering themselves and seeing the casualties, but also seeing being grateful that those that are alive are actually alive.
Mhm.
And the father wasn't too hard. I mean, he's heartbroken, but he wasn't blaming Sokka for the death of her child, of the princess, because he knew who the princess was. He knew that
Guys,
she's
I gotta
hard.
drop. I gotta get this kid
What?
to bed. I know. We're running long.
All right, so yeah, we are running long. All right, so anyway, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the end of it. Okay.
Chris.
Yeah, later.
All right, later, Grace. So that's pretty much the end. Aang still needs to they still need to go off and become do more for the Avatar state and so on and so
Well,
forth.
so what they know is that essentially what's going to happen is that it's left where he's going to get his water bending training from her,
Right.
and they're headed back to the earth bending nation to find an earthbender to teach him.
Right. And then and then he also still needs to do fire bending as well.
Right.
But
But we know, because we know the content, who that teacher will eventually be.
right. So I mean, there's going to be hopefully a season 2. If there is, then we're definitely going to be seeing some more characters like Taupe. She was also a dope earthbender, which I believe she's the one that teaches him.
She's the
Earthbending.
blind one, right?
Yeah, she's the blind one. Yeah.
Yeah, she ends up being the teacher, which is the same as she relates to the badger moles. She learned bending from the badger moles. He's back, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, finish up, and before we go, it would have been he would be very upset if he couldn't talk. So,
hey man, not at the people.
Yeah.
Wait 1 second.
Yeah, so I listen. Avatar: The Last Airbender on Netflix is number one. It's been number one all week, so I'm sure it's getting a lot of good reviews and love. I'd be surprised if we're not getting a season 2.
Yeah, I mean, despite all the changes, they're pretty faithful to the content, and once again, they're filling a lot of episodes into just 10, and I think they did a very good job of it.
Yeah, 8. Was it 10?
It was. I'm sorry, 8. It was 8.
8
It was
episodes.
8. You're right.
It's 60% on Rotten Tomatoes now. It got mixed reviews, but I think as a core, it's more positive and negative.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, some people were talking about the CGI, and like some of the CGI was a little shoddy at times, like when she got her hair blown out. But to me, it was like small things. If you
Avatar state was funny sometimes.
Yeah. And there was the one when he jumped on the wall during that bridge fight when he came out of the fortress. It was kind of weird, but other than that, I think it was, from watching the original, I think it's pretty faithful to the content. It looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So we're gonna rate this.
Yeah, let's rate it since you're back, Chris.
Sure. I give it a 6. I felt like I liked it. It dragged the middle for me. It lost me a little bit. But it was beautiful. And the action, and the fighting was fantastic. I wasn't a big fan of Avatar back in the day, so I really wasn't tied to the source material. But I don't know. The only thing it struggled for is it struggled in the middle for me, and it struggled trying to find its tone a little bit for me. That's kind of where I had a hard time.
All right.
I give it probably a 6.57. I guess I'll say 6.57, 6.75. I thought it was pretty good content. I thought it was definitely faithful to the source material. I thought it looked pretty phenomenal. All things said, thought the combat was great for the content. Loved the casting. Thought the casting was really faithful to the source material. I like the content. I'll definitely be back for a season 2.
Yeah, I'll give it a 7. The casting looked pretty good. When I saw I mean, yeah, casting was pretty good. Not everyone was spot on, but you're not going to get spot on when you're doing live actions. But for the most part, every character captured the essence of their
The
character.
texture.
Right? And Ira, when I saw Ira, I was like, "Yo, that's the dude from that Canadian show on Netflix. He was the father, and also Star Wars." I'm like, "Yo, he looks different." But also good. He did a very good job with Ira because that character is definitely you got to hit him right at all times. He was like the heart of Zuko, who's being heartless the whole time for the most part. But yeah,
Oh,
I'll give it a 7. Huh?
yeah, the art was so good.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and
even the cartoon, he always has those lessons.
yes, yeah. Well, he found his. I mean, Zuko essentially turned into a surrogate son after his son was lost.
Yes, which I appreciated because I don't remember that being in the cartoon.
Mm,
When you saw him go through the loss of his son, he pretty much looked like he was giving up. But then he saw a thing in his when Zuko kind of leaned on him. He was like,
right,
I need your mentorship, right?
right.
So you saw him like kind of go from that low spot and then coming back up to how he is, and then like being that mentor to him, if not a second father. But yeah, I'll give it a 7. The action was pretty dope. CGI for the most part was good, and it was a good story.
All right, so it's collectively 6.5.
6.5.
6.5.
All right. I mean, we gotta get this boy to bed. So what do you got for us? What do you got for us, Sebastian?
Show them
What
what
do
you got, Dashy.
Ooh.
Let's try not to break it.
He has another new gun.
Oh boy.
Okay.
Tell what it is.
It's a sniper rifle with shells.
So you shoot
Sniper
it.
rifle shells.
It has a clip. Same thing. You shoot it. It ejects. It shoots a little dart. Ejects the shell. So it has a real scope on it.
They got that for paintballs, like training guns.
Yeah.
It kind of comes like little caps for the balls, and then it
Not
ejects
just
them.
that. Pistol too.
On a pistol
boy.
too with a sight. Look at
With a
this kid.
real red dot sight.
He is just strapped up, ready to go.
Also, I'll probably make a video of this of me shooting it. Probably.
Okay.
It's
All right. You're gonna put a
On the
flashlight.
left, this thing shoots good.
Yeah. You're gonna put a flashlight on there. There's a big debate on flashlights on guns. They're worthless.
There is. There's a weaver rail right in the bottom, right here for the
Yeah,
bottom
look
for the gun.
All right.
And then you get the clip ejection. And this one actually, when you're on the last bullet, it actually hit the slide
locks
hangs
back?
open.
Nice.
So like, let me show you.
Uh,
Let me FD up my sniper.
Okay, let's check it out real quick.
It's all guns here.
So I have the empty clip.
Okay.
I'm gonna shoot it.
And look at that. It locks back.
It hangs open, yeah.
All right.
And what you can do is like, oh, the clip is out. Want to take the clip out?
oh
Hey,
boy.
That's a thing. That's a thing there.
And the bullets and the shell are just like shoot fast.
Yeah, it'll shoot and the shells eject.
Jet. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.
Go ahead, take your gun.
All right. We're gonna end this thing. Yeah, we've been talking. I talk a lot. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
No. It's good. You're engaged.
Anyway, listen. Thanks for checking us out. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We also have a TikTok. Like, comment, subscribe. If you got any, if you got any debate ideas, let us know. Hit us up in the DMs. Hit us up in the comments. Maybe we'll use them for the show. And listen, thanks for checking us out. And we'll be back same bad time.
Same bad channel.
Oh, Sebastian left. All right, yeah.
Yeah, he bounced.
Later.
He's going to bed. He got to go brush his teeth.
All right.